Hearing the Assembly Select Committee on Rail. Thank you also to our Senate colleagues for being here. We've been joined today by both Senator Cannella, Senator Galgiani, as well as Assembly Minority Leader Kristen Olson, and I'm Adam Gray, Chair of the Select Committee. Thank you, Mayor Marsh, for hosting this meeting today in Modesto and for your strong support of the ACE and San Joaquin services. I'd like to also acknowledge Congressman Denham. He's not joining us here this morning. He wanted to be here, but schedules wouldn't allow. I know that we have both Dana Ferreira and I believe Mike Anderson from the Congressman's office. If you could stand so we could acknowledge your presence. Thank you for being here. We have strong bipartisan support in the San Joaquin Valley for the improvement and expansion of the San Joaquin and ACE rail services. We're going to go ahead and begin the public hearing today with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'd all please rise and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The purpose of today's public hearing is to highlight the improvement programs envisioned for the San Joaquin and Altamont Corridor Express rail services and to help build the political support necessary to get the funding needed to improve and expand these services. The San Joaquin Valley is one of the fastest growing parts of California, yet we are faced with continued high unemployment, some of the worst air quality in the state, and much of the San Joaquin Valley has been designated as a disadvantaged community. I believe that the improvement and the expansion of the San Joaquin and ACE services are absolutely essential to a brighter future for the San Joaquin Valley. Increasing ridership on these services will help improve our mobility in a manner which reduces pollution, improves our economy, provides jobs, and promotes a more sustainable development in our downtown areas. However, we must work to find the resources and enable the improvements to add more service, reduce travel times, and expand these services. ACE could be extended to Modesto by 2019 and on to Merced by 2023. We need more San Joaquin service to Sacramento, and the first San Joaquin trains to arrive in Oakland, Sacramento, and Bakersfield by around 8 a.m. I know that these are goals of ACE and the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority, and I called this hearing today to try to get the political support to make sure that these plans become reality. I believe we have a great agenda today. We will first be hearing testimony from my colleagues in the legislature, followed by a presentation from the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority and ACE. As part of the agenda, we will be hearing from some key representatives from our communities as well. We will have a public comment period to follow, and I hope that many of you will take advantage of this opportunity to provide your input on this important topic. At this time, let's go ahead and move on to agenda item 3, and welcome to my colleagues. Let me first call upon Senator Galgiani. If you would go ahead and give us your opening remarks, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Assemblymember Gray, for hosting this so we have the opportunity to come together today. I think that we're very fortunate because we have some of the very best rail planners in the state right here in the Central Valley, and we have been working with them as partners for quite some time. In 2008, when I authored AB 3034, we worked to ensure that the state bond monies were enabled to be used for the Central Valley, specifically for the ACE service, so that we would be able to have complementary rail for commuter service through the Altamont corridor. Since that time, we worked together to author AB 1779 in 2012, and that enabled the state to transfer authority to a joint powers authority, now the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority, for management of the San Joaquin Rail Service, much like they do for the Capital Corridor in the Sacramento area. And what they have found there is that with local management and local decisions, they have local input from those who are actually using the service, and they were able to identify improvement needs, and they were successful in meeting those improvement goals, and now have greater service, greater ridership, and increased revenue to the service. We're hoping for the same here in the San Joaquin Valley, and we are looking forward to great success given that this ACE system is using $36.4 million from my legislation, AB 3034, to bring ACE to Modesto and then later to Merced. So we know that at this time we have over 70,000 commuters from San Joaquin County alone over the Altamont every day into the Silicon Valley and into the Bay Area. We know we have a great number here from Stanislaus County, and at one point, 1 out of 5 workers was commuting just to San Joaquin County, So the need is great, and by improving the service that we allow, businesses in the Bay Area and the Silicon Valley will have the ability to change their work schedules for employees so that employees have greater flexibility, and that in turn will increase ridership to our service and revenue that we can put back into the system and have greater service for the entire area. So thank you to Assemblymember Gray, thank you to Assemblymember Olson and Senator Cannella for being here today, and again, I congratulate the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority and all of the work locally that's been done to bring us to this point.
Okay, and if we could go ahead and move to Senator Cannella.
Thank you, Chairman Gray, and thank you for having this informational hearing today. I think it's appropriate with the discussions we're having in Sacramento regarding transportation funding. I think that mass transit, all forms of mass transit need to be part of that discussion if we're going to have something that's successful. I'm currently the Vice Chair of the Senate Transportation Committee, and for the committee for the current Transportation Special Session. I've made transportation a top priority this year, and the extension of ACE Train is one of the projects that has the greatest potential to impact my district and really, I would say, the Central Valley in general. California has seen an uneven recovery from the Great Recession. While the Bay Area has done very well, the San Joaquin Valley continues to lag behind. By extending ACE Train, we're given an opportunity to assist the Valley in better accessing this economic growth. Improving passenger rail service is critical for the future of the San Joaquin Valley. Expanding ACE and the San Joaquin, for me, is a no-brainer. We desperately need more accessible transportation options to connect the northern San Joaquin Valley to the Bay Area and Sacramento. As our population continues to grow and our roads get more congested, ACE and San Joaquin service improvements are a prudent, cost-effective way to improve mobility, strengthen our economy, reduce impacts on our roads and our environment, and further build our communities. Extending ACE to Merced is a very high priority for the northern San Joaquin Valley. ACE will provide a much-needed and economical transportation alternative to the Bay Area for Stanislaus and Merced counties and our surrounding region. My staff has been working closely with ACE staff, and I appreciate all the planning work they've done to set the stage for implementing this extension. A recent study by the nonprofit Great Valley Center based here in Modesto shows that the extension to Merced will provide a commuter savings of $26 million annually in 2020, increasing to $66 million in 2025. In addition, there will be an impact of over $900 million in construction, creating 5,700 jobs in the region during the expansion. This doesn't take into account the other benefits, such as easing the ability for businesses to relocate or expand in the valley and the environmental benefits we will realize with fewer cars on the road. In June, I was joined by 16 of my colleagues in the Senate, including Senator Galgiani, on a letter to Senate President Pro Tem Kevin De Leon requesting additional funds to support the expansion. We asked that the transit and intercity rail capital program be increased to at least $500 million annually, or that the program be increased from its current 10% of ongoing cap and trade funds to 20%. This would not just provide funding for expanding ACE and San Joaquin services, but other commuter rail, intercity rail, and transit services across the state. Both the ACE and San Joaquin services deserve substantial funding from cap and trade. During this current special session for transportation funding, I was the first to raise the need for public transit to receive additional resources. We were originally just talking about maintenance of roads, and now the discussion has expanded beyond that. While we don't yet know what the final legislative package from the special session might consist of, I'm going to continue to fight to ensure that ACE train expansion and intercity rail receive additional funding. Not only is there a demonstrated need for service expansion, but we also have some of the worst air quality, as was mentioned by Chair Gray and the state, and these improvements would benefit a number of disadvantaged communities, which we all are. Improving and expanding our ACE and San Joaquin services will also make our communities more competitive to receive cap-and-trade funding from the Sustainable Communities Program, which comprises 20% of ongoing cap-and-trade funds. I look forward to this hearing today, and again, thank you for your commitment and everyone at this table. I think that we're going to be able to do great things in the San Joaquin Valley.
Okay, and Assemblymember Olson.
Thank you, Assemblymember Gray, and thank you for holding this hearing today. It is great to be back here in the city chambers. It doesn't feel that long ago that I spent a lot of time here as a council member, so thank you to Mayor Marsh for hosting us again today. You know, one of the things that I have so enjoyed about serving in the State Assembly is the great cooperation we have among our delegation here, those of us who have the honor of representing Merced, Stanislaus, and San Joaquin County. And it's one of the reasons that I truly believe we will be successful in working with ACE, working with the San Joaquin Joint Rail Commission to expand the services further into the valley, because we're trying to set a model for the rest of the state about what bipartisan cooperation can look like when it leads to results for the Californians who desperately deserve action and not just talk in Sacramento. So we really appreciate all of you taking the time to be here, because it's going to take all of us working together to make sure that this comes to fruition. I'm a big supporter of these services, and it is so important to our entire community. I don't know how many of you commute to the Bay Area. My husband commuted to the Bay Area for a long time, and I can't tell you how many times we talked about how convenient it would be if ACE came into Modesto, Turlock, Merced, and he could just hop on the train and take it all the way to the Bay Area. It leads to better jobs, a better economy, more convenient, inexpensive commuting options. And that would improve the quality of life for all of us who call this area our home. But what he had to do was either drive, or he'd have to drive to Stockton or Tracy or Pleasanton to be able to get on transit services to the Bay Area. And at that point, it may not even make a whole lot of sense. So I am personally invested in seeing this project and these projects come to fruition as well. Improving and expanding our existing transit and rail services just makes sense. We can do this at a fraction of the cost of other proposals that are out there, and we can do it while making significant improvements in our air quality and getting a significant number of people out of their cars who would much rather sit on a train and being able to read or start their work or be on a conference call as they're commuting to the office. I co-authored AB 1779 with Senator Galgiani that allowed for the creation of the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission. And it was so important because this is a JPA situation that others have benefited, particularly in the capital community, that have allowed our rail services to come together, to work together, and move services forward so that we can increase frequency of stops, and so that we can do that in very cost-effective ways. And we're thrilled to see that now coming off the ground. It was interesting how hard it was just to get approval to have the select committee for rail, the select committee. And Adam Gray and I worked very hard with the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority, ACE, and others to make it come to fruition. And we're really pleased that it is a standing committee of the legislature today. And this is the first that Chair Adam Gray has been able to hold outside of the Sacramento area. So we're making progress. It's baby steps, but it's important because it's going to pay dividends in the future. We want to see this ACE Forward extension into Manteca, into Ripon, into Modesto, Turlock, Merced, and then eventually into the Sacramento area as well. And that will help all of us. So again, thank you for being here. I do want to provide one clarification because I got a lot of email responses when I put out an email encouraging attendance today that this is not high-speed rail that we're talking about today. So I just want to make that clarification. The Altamont Commuter Express, the regional rail services that we're talking about through the San Joaquin area, we're talking about existing regional transit services that we want to expand and grow. So again, if any of you thought we were talking about the high-speed rail project, that is not the purpose of today's hearing. Thank you, and look forward to the ongoing conversations.
All right, thank you to the members for those opening remarks. And we do have, as Assemblymember Olson said, a great delegation of leaders here in our region with great cooperation. Both Senator Galgiani and Senator Cannella sit on the Senate Select Committee, our partner, and certainly Assembly Member Olson has been a staunch advocate along with me in the Assembly to pursue these efforts. At this time, we're going to do two things. We're going to return to item 1 on the agenda and ask the mayor, who's hosting us today, to come up and make some remarks. And I also want to take this opportunity to just quickly introduce and acknowledge some of the great local leaders who are also great partners with us. I know we have both Supervisor Chiesa and Supervisor Withrow here today. Thank you for being here. From the city of, or the county of Merced, rather, we have Supervisor McDaniel, Supervisor Pedroza, Supervisor Walsh, and from Madera, Supervisor Rogers. Obviously, Mayor Marsh is hosting us this morning, but we also have in attendance Mayor Molina. And we also have Mayor O'Brien from Riverbank, council members from Modesto, Jenny Canoyer, thank you for being here, Tony DeSetti from Merced, Alex McCabe from Livermore, and Councilman Vineyard from Atwater. So thank you all for being here, as well as Supervisor Bestarias from San Joaquin. Thank you for being here. With that, Mayor, please go forward with your opening remarks.
Assemblymember Gray and the other members of our legislature, all friends of mine, I believe, and I'd really like to thank all of you, Senator Galgiani, Senator Cannella, and my former seatmate up there, Kristen Olson. Thank you and congratulations to all of you on really in embracing rail, and welcome to Modesto. And this is great, standing room only. I think it shows how important rail is to this community and to our city. Thank you all. Thank you, Assemblymember Gray, for selecting Modesto as your venue for this special Assembly Select Committee on Rail public hearing. We're very pleased to be able to host this along with our partners from Stanislaus County. Modesto continues to grow, as do other valley communities, and expanding rail service greatly enhances our ability as a city to grow in a manner that is more sustainable and better for the environment. Extending ACE to downtown Modesto and expanding the San Joaquin services will also bring more vitality and boost our local economy. I'm going to also add that the courts have selected a new site in downtown Modesto. Modesto's already scoped out and settled on a station area for ACE train, and they're only a block apart, and the ACE train would only be about a block from this building. I mean, it's really in the core of the city. It really fits for the growth and the expansion of our city. The city of Modesto was the very first city in the region to adopt a resolution fully supporting the ACE expansion project. We are encouraging all of the other cities in our region to do the same. And I've brought copies of our resolution, and I provided one to Assemblymember Gray. Our council recognizes ACE has the ability to better connect us to the Bay Area, not only for those who choose to commute for jobs, but also for those that would like to have a more efficient use of transit to the Bay for doctors, for commerce, for international travel, and of course to go to the 49er game at the new Levi Stadium. As the mayor of Modesto and one of the largest cities in the valley, I see great benefit and value to enhancing our rail connections in and throughout the state of California. We cannot be reliant solely on roads. We should be able to offer our valley residents clear choices of travel that help them in their daily lives. I'd like to also thank the chair people and the managers of the San Joaquin service and the ACE train expansion for being here today. And we look forward to this meeting. I commend Assemblymember Gray again and our valley legislators for taking time to come to Modesto and join us and help move this along. Thank you, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate certainly your hospitality here this morning. At this time, we're going to go ahead and move to Agenda Item 4, the San Joaquin Intercity Passenger Rail Service Background Expansion Plans and Funding Needs. So if we could go ahead and have Supervisor Pedroso, Chairperson of the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority, as well as Dan Levitt, Manager of Regional Initiatives for SJJPA. So thank you, Supervisor. Welcome.
Nice to see you, and it's always a pleasure to see our representatives not only as representatives of the Valley, but also friends. So it makes it a little easier to talk to. But first, let me say a correction. Alex McCabe is from the city of Livingston, which I represent in my district. So he's here, and I just wanted to clarify that. And again, I want to thank you, Assemblymember Gray, and members of the legislature. Thank you so much for the support of the San Joaquin Rail Service. We greatly appreciate you holding this hearing to promote the San Joaquin and ACE services. On July 1st, 2015, the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority became responsible for the management of the San Joaquin Rail Service. This began a new partnership between the state, Amtrak, and San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority to work together to improve and expand the San Joaquin Rail Service. Senator Galgiani, thank you for authoring AB 1779, the enabling legislation for San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority in 2012. And I would also like to thank Senator Canella and Assemblymember Olson for co-authoring AB 1779. The San Joaquin service carries about 1.2 million passengers a year, making it the 5th most used in Amtrak service in the country. The passengers using San Joaquin's take well over 100 million vehicles traveled off of our congested freeways every year and reduce over 24 million pounds of CO2 from our air. As a longtime user of the San Joaquin service, I can tell you firsthand it's a great way to travel throughout the San Joaquin corridor and with our thoroughway bus connections. It is a great way to travel throughout California. To see continued growth of ridership and benefits of to the state and to the region, we need to improve and expand the San Joaquin service. There has been no new service added between Sacramento and Bakersfield in over 14 years, and more than 23 years since new service was added between Oakland and Bakersfield. Again, I'd like to thank you for hosting this, and I will now turn it over to our Manager of Regional Initiative, Dan Levitt, to go over details of our development program.
Thank you, Supervisor. And we also want to acknowledge we have a council member from Manteca, Vince Hernandez, here today. So thank you for being with us, Councilmember Hernandez. And I think we also have Mayor Villalta. There he is from Los Banos. Thank you, Mayor, for being here. And Councilmember Lewis, thank you for making the trip to join us.
Good morning. The San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority has 10 member agencies with 1 board member and 1 alternate for each of the member agencies. 7 of our member agencies are in the San Joaquin Valley, and a number of our board members are actually here today. In addition to Chair Pedroso, we also have Member Chiesa representing StanCog, Member Johnson representing San Joaquin COG, and Member Rogers representing Madera CTC. And I hope I didn't miss any because a lot of people came in at the end. So if I missed one of our board members, please forgive me. Here's actually a picture of our board at a recent meeting, and in addition with our executive director, Stacy Mortensen. The San Joaquin service is over 364 miles long, serving 11 counties directly with the rail service. There are 4 daily round trips between Oakland and Bakersfield and 2 between Sacramento and Bakersfield. As our chair noted, we carry about 1.2 million riders a year. On this map, the San Joaquin is shown in blue. Those red dotted lines you see on the map, those are the San Joaquin thruway bus services, which are very vital to the San Joaquin service. About 45% of our passengers use the San Joaquin thruway bus on at least one end of their trip, taking our passengers as far north as Eureka, as far south as San Diego, and as far east as Reno and Las Vegas. Here's a San Joaquin train running through the valley. And this is a cover of our business plan for the latest business plan, 2015, which each of you were provided copies. This is available to the public on our website. We also have made a one-page fact sheet that we've made available for all the members of the public today who came to this meeting that summarizes the key findings and recommendations from this business plan. In terms of expansion, the highest priority for the JPA is the deployment of the 7th daily round trip. And the good news for the San Joaquins is because of the efforts that Caltrans did before the transfer of service, all the improvements are in place to enable a 7th daily round trip to be deployed between Oakland and Bakersfield. The funding for the operations of that 7th daily round trip are in the state budget for this year, and we expect that service to be deployed by April of 2016. The JPA is also very focused on continuing the work that Caltrans started for an 8th daily round trip between Oakland and Bakersfield. We need about $100 million more of capital improvements in order to be able to operate an 8th daily round trip on the service. These are both very high priorities for the JPA. The area that the state hadn't done a lot of planning work for yet was the extension to Sacramento, more service to Sacramento, which the JPA believes is absolutely critical for the service. As was noted, we've only have 2 daily round trips, one that gets in passengers around 12:30 to Sacramento, the other 11:30 at night. So really, in order to really serve the growing market to Sacramento, we need more San Joaquin service to Sacramento. Throughout the existence of the San Joaquin service, all the trains have gone from starting at one end of the corridor and going to the other end of the corridor. So for example, our first train leaves Bakersfield at about 5 a.m. It doesn't arrive into Oakland until 11 a.m. The first train from Bakersfield to Sacramento doesn't get into Sacramento until about 12:30. And the first train from Oakland going south down to Bakersfield doesn't get into Bakersfield until noon. What our board is very interested in is the possibility for future service to actually have the train starting in the middle part of the corridor in the San Joaquin Valley. So for example, if we started at Merced, we could start at the same time our first train starts at Bakersfield, around 5 a.m. That gets us into Oakland at 8 a.m., as Chair Gray was noting, would be very useful for the passengers. In addition, we could start and go south from Merced. Around 5 a.m., we'd arrive in Bakersfield by 8 a.m., and we could start even later, closer to 6 a.m., and still get to Sacramento by 8 a.m. This is something that our board feels would be very helpful to ridership. Right now, most of the San Joaquin passengers are leisure travelers. If we're able to offer trips that do support more business-type travel, we think it would be very good for ridership and revenue for the service. In addition, which is in our business plan, our board is very interested in potentially adding some additional stations. If you look north from Lodi, there's no stations until the end station at downtown Sacramento. There's about 170,000 people in Elk Grove. Elk Grove is very interested in the station. We think that's a very good location. In addition, 65th Street is a good connection with the I-50 corridor, with Sac State, and with light rail. In the Bay Area, there's a couple additional sites we're looking at as well, Hercules and Berkeley. And then in the Valley, North Fresno, and Northwest Bakersfield. And then finally, in terms of extending the service, if we could just go 5 miles past our terminus in Oakland at Jack London Square, we'd be able to have a station at the Coliseum Complex, which would give us another BART link, serve the Coliseum Complex, but also connect directly with the people mover that takes passengers to Oakland International Airport, providing a great connection to the airport, Oakland International Airport, for the San Joaquin Valley and for eastern Contra Costa County. Oh, someone likes that idea. So we do have an estimated 10-year capital program, $1.5 billion improvement program for the San Joaquin service. That includes the $100 million that we talked about for the 8th daily round trip. A big part of the cost, we estimate, is about $600 million for the extension from Stockton to Sacramento, a single new track up to Sacramento to allow frequent service to Sacramento. In addition, it includes safety improvements, new stations, improvements to allow more service to the Bay Area, new equipment, and new service up to get us up to 11 daily round trips up to the Bay Area. In terms of our marketing, it's compared to previous marketing work that's been done by the state. We're going to focus much more on grassroots, community-based outreach, which we think will work better in the San Joaquin Valley in particular. And noting the demographics, we're going to do a lot more outreach to Hispanic communities and to non-English speaking communities throughout the corridor. We've done a lot of advocacy work even before taking over the management of the service. You guys are used to seeing us in your office from many times, and also your staff are very acquainted with us. We work with our partners, the other services, the Capital Corridor, the Lausanne Corridor, emerging corridors along the coast, and interest to get intercity service to the Inland Empire. Currently, we are really focused on following the lead of members of the legislature, such as Senator Cannella and Senator Galgiani, trying to get support for increasing the cap-and-trade transit intercity rail capital program, which is currently at 10% to 20%. And we're working hard to try to make that happen. We think it's the most important program in cap-and-trade to get improvements for the intercity and commuter services like ACE. And in addition, if there are any new sales tax allocated to the public transportation account, we believe that those should include intercity rail in those. That's the area where we get our operating funds. And so we do need, as we expand service, additional operating funds as well. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, do we have any questions from the members? I'll go ahead and just, if you could quickly expand, you made some commentary about the simple change in departure location and the great advantage that could have for the entire valley. What's a realistic timeline on that?
We are actually looking into the possibility of, with the 7th daily round trip, we're working with Amtrak and with the host railroads to see if that's a possibility. We have a short time frame because we need to get that train deployed, but we are looking at that as, could it be part of the 7th daily round trip? And if it turns out that it's not, then it certainly could be part of the 8th daily round trip. We need to be able to figure out how to get that into the schedule, working around other freight trains and other passenger trains. But in addition, we need to find some sort of a layover facility that we could use quickly to do that as well. So we are looking into it, but conceivably it could be as early as a year from now. If not, it might be a few years.
Senator Galgiani.
Thank you. You mentioned $600 million for a line from Stockton to Sacramento, and that would be a single track.
Yes.
Could you expand on that a little bit?
Yes, that would be, the corridor is very congested with freight. And so we believe that in order to be able to add more trains ultimately and get a higher level of capacity, we're going to have a track that's predominantly used for passengers. It would still, we conceive it would still have some freight use. This is conceptual at this time. We do not, there has not been negotiations with UP yet on this, but we believe in order to get a significant amount of frequent service, we're going to have to do something similar to Sacramento as ACE is working on to get trains down to Merced.
Okay, thank you.
Has research been done yet to determine whether the Merced to Sacramento, Merced to Oakland, or Merced to Bakersfield route would have the largest amount of increased ridership in the short term?
Not yet. We'll be working with Amtrak to do ridership forecasts. The issue with the 7th daily round trip and the 8th daily round trip is that that's where the improvements have been made in order to be able to actually run the trains. So that's where we have the opportunity to actually run the trains. Even if we wanted to, we haven't done the improvements, and we don't have the agreements with UP in order to run more trains to Sacramento at this time. But we will be doing ridership forecasts within the next year.
And I assume your decision on which one to do first would be based on a combination of that ridership data along with UP negotiations,
Yes.
et cetera?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any additional questions? Thank you for your testimony. At this time, we will go ahead and move to item 5 and invite Bob Johnson, Chairperson of the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission, as well as Stacy Mortensen, Executive Director, SJRRC, to join us.
Good morning. Chair Gray, members of the legislature, my name is Bob Johnson, and as was said, I am the chairman of the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission and also serve as mayor of the city of Lodi. Thank you for taking time from your very, very busy schedules to meet with us and to discuss the options and opportunities we see on the horizon for ACE Rail. The San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission is the owner and operator of the ACE Rail Service. Maybe you can appreciate this. Unlike most government agencies, ACE is relatively small, agile, and efficient, which enables us to accomplish some big things. We don't necessarily get bogged down in minutia, thank goodness. One example would be our new state-of-the-art maintenance facility, which was opened recently in Stockton. I'm sure most of you have seen this facility. It's a very, very impressive building. If none of you have, please call us. We'll make arrangements for a personal tour. Interestingly enough, we are being approached by other rail agencies knowing that we have this new state-of-the-art facility, and they're wondering whether we can pick up some of their repair and maintenance efforts, which we are more than willing to discuss with people. ACE is one of the fastest growing commuter rail services in the nation. Over the last 5 years, our ridership has almost doubled. Our fare box recovery ratio is about 50%, which is an exceptional number for public transportation and one which ranks us very, very favorably with our competition. Without a doubt, ACE is probably the safest, most reliable, and environmentally friendly means of travel between the San Joaquin Valley, the Tri-Valley, and Silicon Valley areas. Our on-time performance figures consistently run above 95%, and the most recent figures I have seen were at 99%. You can't get much better than that. We pride ourselves on clean, comfortable trains stamped by very, very helpful and friendly professionals. We have had numerous testimonials from our riders telling us that ACE makes a miserable commute more palatable. Our biggest challenge is in meeting the growing needs for additional service. We need to increase the amount of service in the region by providing more direct contact with the more communities in the San Joaquin Valley. Again, I thank you for your time, and I hope we can appreciate your continued support. And now I'd like to ask Stacy Morton, Center Electric Director, to fill you in some details. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do people want to try to sit down and shimmy in? I feel bad with people standing. Everybody's okay? Part of the fitness plan? All right. Well, good morning, Chair Gray and champions from both houses. What you do, we notice, and I know you get a lot of flack sometimes up in Sacramento. We call and complain, but I hope today you hear a lot of thank you, because what you're doing in terms of rail and other interests that you represent for our regions, we greatly appreciate. I've had the privilege of being involved in the ACE program since 1994, so actually before it began, and so I've been able to watch this marvelous journey. And I feel very proud of the partnerships that have been formed, the people that have come, some of the people that we've lost, unfortunately, along the way, and Robert Cabral. So it's just really a great journey, and it's just begun. There's so much more we can do. I believe we can dream big. Everybody that knows me knows I dream big, but we try to implement things rationally and phased and doable with partners. So I don't want this to sound like craziness. We need to dream big and then just chart a path and get things done. We have to, it's hard work, thick skins, as you all know, and no quit. But I think if we take that attitude, a lot of the things we're talking about today, we can do. Oops. These are our trains today. Some people might say they don't look as sexy as some of the new higher speed train sets that are talked about. I think it's wonderful. I think our passengers think it's wonderful. You'll hear from one a little bit later. It's conventional equipment, but it is capable of going up to 90 miles an hour. And when we start looking at being able to run trains at that speed compared to what we run today, right now the max track speed is 79. But working with partners in the railroads, we can actually improve that speed just through some maintenance practices and different build of the tracks. This is a great start, but we've got to see a lot more. This is the current ACE schedule. The top shows you when people leave in the morning. Look at Stockton on the far left corner. 4:20 a.m. Yes, there are crazy people that do that. This week on Tuesday, there were 624 of them on that train. The next one over that leaves at 5:30 from Stockton, we had 913. The next one over that leaves at 6:40, we had 770. And on the far right, which is what we call our sweeper train. Usually if you have 100 people on a sweeper train, you're doing great. We had 402. So our sweeper trains do better than a lot of trains on other systems. So that day we had one-way riders, 2710. And so that's taking more than a complete highway lane mile of people off the roads and making more space for the other people who we haven't convinced yet to take ACE, so they're still stubborn in driving. We're doing more now than just commute service. One thing we found over the years, ACE has a lot of benefits. Infrastructure like this can be used to showcase community features, events, sports programs. The trains to the Niner games last year were very successful. We plan to do it again. We hope the team gets a little bit better, but it's a great way for other members of the community to take advantage of the ACE trains. Chair Johnson mentioned our new state-of-the-art maintenance facility. You really got to see it. It is really a wonderful feature for our community. Assemblymember Olson demonstrated the wheel truing machine at our grand opening event, and so there's a lot of great tooling and machinery in there, really focused on worker safety. We've taken out all the things that happen in other places where workers have to move scaffolding or ladders. Everything is really set up where equipment runs along the tracks, and you don't have to pick anything up and put it down. And so worker safety was a big, big part of this, as was efficiencies. A lot of other places around the country, they'll tell you what doesn't work in their shop, and so we took advantage of those lessons and we made sure we didn't put that in our shop. And so it's really going to be a great facility and a great asset to the region, both for intercity rail and for ACE. And I will tell you, our governing board was very savvy about build this for the future. Don't get locked in and just build what will be here during my term. They built this shop for the future, and the communities are really going to save a lot of money because of it. So what are we talking about going forward? You saw a little bit about what ACE is today. Well, people will tell you we need to speed it up a little bit. There are some sections, although lovely and nostalgic, they're curvy and they're a little bit steep. And so there's places where we could really improve the speeds and make it a little more far more competitive than auto travel. Although if any of you have been on Highway 580 lately, you will see we could probably poke along on the train and still, chug, sorry, and still beat the traffic on 580. So we do need to look at speeding it up. There's some strategic options there. We definitely want to make sure we make more room for passing with the freight trains. Goods movement is important, especially to us here in the Valley. So we do want to have kind of a dual purpose. We want passenger trains to expand, but while we're at it, if we're sharing an infrastructure, let's really make sure it works for goods movement as well. There's a lot of goods coming out of the Port of Oakland using this ACE route. Uh-oh, the mayor's going to be mad at me of Modesto. The other part of our expansion is our first phase off of the trunk line route, and that's down to Modesto. That's our first big push, first initiative to really look at expanding the corridor down to new markets. And these are markets that have a relationship with the Bay Area. There's definitely an economic magnetism, and so that is going to continue to grow. While we will grow in our own economic health here in the Valley, we still have a need for a relationship to those urban centers and some of the larger industrial job markets. Our next expansion is to look at upping the frequencies on the core, trying to get more towards hourly type service, still with a focus on the commute period, but making more options available, family travel, medical travel, other sorts of trips than just pure commute. And then pushing that expansion further down the valley through Turlock and on down into Merced. Merced in itself is a very viable market. That expansion is very viable just looking at today's growth. It has another potential option. If high-speed rail is built to Merced, that is a jumping off point that will need a lot of throughput via rail. Otherwise, people are going to have to get on buses or try to figure out getting on the highway. And so it's definitely a very important point in Northern California that we want to make sure everything connects to. So when we do this, we want to look at creating access for the communities, right? ACE has very few stops right now. I happen to love that because operationally that's perfect. But we want to make it more accessible to the communities. A station access point brings a lot of economic value to communities. And so we want to explore the more numerous places perhaps that we could bring ACE and actually develop a facility. Anywhere we've built ACE stations today, land got snapped up around it, things have built up, things have transitioned, and so it's just an evolving process of development and economic health when you put in facilities like this. This is what's going on in Northern California. There's a lot. All those lines represent various pieces of rail: ACE, San Joaquin's Capital Corridor, the high-speed rail program. You see potential expansion options. We're really in the thick of a lot of things rail. So I feel like it's a nice little playground and puzzle to be doing this, because really a lot of travelers will benefit from smart decisions that we make together. Now, Dan talked a little bit about the Sacramento piece. It's the green line there. I believe we have to be very creative here. There's ACE, there's the San Joaquin's, there's Capital Corridor. All of us could work together. There's not infinite resources. They're finite. And so we can't get hung up on what we call it. It could be called Joe's train. But through the resources and equipment that we all have, we should be able, Capital Corridor could loop down and make a trip. Capital Corridor and San Joaquin's share some equipment. Maybe there's a looping concept. Maybe ACE provides some and San Joaquin's provides some, and Capitals. If we get around our jurisdictional boundaries, there's some real promise for how we can get Sacramento served. But we are going to have to think probably differently than we think about the other expansions. This is ridership. I don't want to drag you through numbers, but it just shows just latent demand would have an increase if more train service were put out there. And I can tell you that's true, because 919 people on a train is very crowded, right, Loretta? And so it's, people open the door and look in and go, oh my gosh, I can't get in there, there's no seats. And they're right. So we really have to put more service out there because people do want it. Now, you do see on the far right, there is a big boost once service gets down to Merced, and we add weekend service, and we make a more direct connection to BART. There's a few things, big ticket items, that really give us somewhat of an exponential boost. This just gives you an idea of ons and offs. I would not have thought Modesto would be such an attraction. I wanted to think it was in my home county of San Joaquin, but Modesto is really a big draw, and the more you look at it, the more it seems to be really a regional hub kind of station. And so we're looking at that now, and thankfully the city has been planning on a station for quite some time, because you don't want to see these big numbers and then not have any of the planning work behind you. So a very good market for Modesto, and all the stations have a good market, as good or better than the stations that we have today. And so I think there's some real healthy growth in store for the future. This is a higher ridership estimate. I like to be more conservative, so I don't like to show this chart, but Dan does. So this is what it could be if we're really cooking with gas and everybody sort of shifted their modes over. So just to give you an idea, if you look at the Tracy station, that equates to like 1,500 or 1,600 people boarding a day, in the mornings, one-way trips. And so that's about a little over double what it is today. And Tracy's a pretty healthy station. It's always vying with Lathrop for number one. So I think we have to start thinking about those kind of numbers coming into the downtowns. People want this service in the downtown. As a former traffic engineer, I always caution, be careful, because sometimes the downtowns are set up to be, slower speed, nice, and if you're attracting 2,000 people at a peak period, we just want to be thoughtful about how those are developed, which is why spreading some of the ridership out through various stations starts to make more sense. These are just some of the findings from the ACE Forward work. You see what the high-speed rail connection does in terms of increasing ridership. The direct connection to BART, very important to us. We've wanted to work on that for a long time. It's a complex solution. BART has to get a lot farther to the east for us to make that happen, but it really is a benefit to ACE, to BART, and then to I-580. If you can siphon a bunch of the people coming across the pass off at Greenville, they never get on that kind of congested throat of I-580 in the first place. So I think that has a lot of benefit for both regions. And then weekend service, which surprises me, always polls well, models well. I always think there's not enough people wanting to do that every weekend, but the numbers keep looking good. So we might have to try a pilot program, and that will connect more people in the community to activities in the Bay Area and vice versa, not just commuting. The dollars, this is what we're talking about. This is a different kind of build. In the past, current ACE, we've mostly dealt with upgrading existing freight tracks, and so that has a certain cost. We might put in a siding or two. But what we realized here, to really get a higher speed and to get better on-time performance, reliability for people, we need a dedicated track. And we have been working with UP about putting it within their right-of-way, and allowing them some use of it when passenger service isn't on it. And that's how you see these numbers. We're quite far along in working with them. But it does allow higher speeds. It is fully positive train control ready. And so they're slightly different dollars than you've seen historically for ACE. So this is building a slightly different project. But you see in each of the structures, San Joaquin County has a piece to expand down to Merced itself. So we have to get from Lathrop down to the county line. We've got a delightful couple of river crossings that we have to keep in mind. So those end up having somewhat higher price tags. And if you go to the far right of that chart, what you see is what we've experienced historically. We are usually able to leverage almost 75% if we have a 25% local share. Lately, that's been less true, but now cap and trade is on the scene, and so that could change. But in the early days of ACE, we really were able to leverage because it's a product other state and federal agencies were willing to invest in. And so we're trying to use that same model, leverage, leverage, leverage. But locally, we have to have something. We have to have skin in the game. And so that's the program that we're pursuing. On the operating side, when you have multiple counties together and a fare box that's over 50%, it's a surprisingly easy lift if we all agree to fund it. Now, San Joaquins are funded by the state. This is funded through fares and then through a multi-county agreement when the current counties all have transportation sales taxes. And from that, because we're sharing, it's not that big of a burden for any particular county. So I think there's a model that works pretty well that we can continue as we look at expansion options. So this just gives you an idea of the net increment. What we're trying to do is have an expansion just be a net increment of new costs. And you can see the different, when we add the 5th and 6th train and then the 7th to 10th train, as you would expect, the costs go up. But again, they're shareable by up to 5 counties, depending on what phase of the service we're in. So in terms of rationality, we've really had to look at what can we do quickly and first that provides the most benefit and what are longer term items. So you see they're divided up there. If we have funding opportunities, there's some things we can do right away that make some sense, that make improvements, that bring benefit to our communities. And then there are other things, mostly related to environmental processes they're big projects or they're projects that are built over water. They take a little bit more time. And so we've got a phased approach where we can pluck as funding becomes available to keep improving the system in a phased manner. And I know I gave you a lot of information and probably too many side stories, but that's what I love to do. So thank you for letting me give you a little glimpse of ACE.
Okay, do we have any questions from the members? Senator Olson?
I'll start with some compliments for both you and Mayor Johnson. I have been so impressed as I've gotten to know more the ACE facility in Stockton for sure, but just your entire programming. The riders that I talk to are so impressed with the facilities on the train, the on-timeness, as Mayor Johnson, where did he go, spoke to, 95 to 99% is unprecedented. I've been reviewing other rail services, and that really is unprecedented. So my compliments to you and your dream big mentality, because I think your dream big mentality is inspiring to your employees as well as to the communities that you work with. So thank you for that. My only question is, on the last slide, there was a figure that showed $200 million, I assume, to bring it to Modesto. But on a previous slide, I thought it said $96.2 million to bring it to Stanislaus County. So I was wondering, is that a different area of Stanislaus County or with a $24 million local match?
You'll have to help me on that. Oh, sorry. One more.
Yeah.
One more.
There we go.
So you have, with the 5th and 6th daily round trips, those are the improvements within between Stockton and San Jose. And then where the extension of Modesto, that's the new track taking.
So it's the 102 to get it to Ripon and then an
Yes.
additional 96
Yes.
to get it to Modesto.
Yes, correct. And that gets
Okay.
you up to the 200 million.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Senator Cannella?
Yeah, I think one of the keys for ACE is the ability to jump on BART. I think that's a big deal. You touched on it, but what are we talking dollar-wise to be able to make that connection?
On the ACE side, it's not that much. There's
I want the whole thing. So what is it going to take and how much is it going to cost?
The BART expansion to Greenville, right now, at latest cost, which was several years ago, was about $5 billion.
$5 billion? 'Cause I look at a map, it doesn't look like it's that big of a distance. So what do people do now? I mean, they not get onto BART? 'Cause-
I've been corrected, 3.5,
okay. Okay.
outdated numbers.
So, yeah, that's a big number. So what do people do now?
And it buys more capacity, and I'm always careful. We can always show a cheaper per train mile for ACE, but the capacity, carrying capacity is limited. We don't have as much service as BART. So I want to be, BART is expensive, but it also has a very high carrying capacity. So we just have to be
So,
careful.
so currently, what do people do if they want to get on BART? They jump on and stop?
We have a bus connection
Bus connection? Okay.
at Pleasanton.
And how long does that take?
It takes about 13 minutes.
That's okay. How many people use that?
That I couldn't tell you daily.
Okay,
But
it's-
they're full buses. We have 2 full buses that come, and some people get off at the business parks, but like a bus and a half are full and go into BART. That's a long trip. We've had some very close ACE passengers who've made that trip all the way into San Francisco, and they do it every day. But they can count on it. They know the drill, and they get on. They know how to do the transfers.
You're saying it's a very long trip from Stockton to San Francisco?
Yes.
Okay.
And people will tell you, consultants will tell you, no one will do that. Well, it's not true. If it's a reliable thing people learn and get to count on, they will make several transfers.
How long of a trip would it be if you jumped on Stockton and got to San Francisco?
It's about about 10 minutes for the bus, about 50 minutes for the train trip, and another 50 for the BART into the Embarcadero area. So it's grueling.
So plus
And they
2
might have
hours?
driven, yes.
Yeah, okay. And is it used frequently? Are people using that bus? I mean,
Yes.
Okay. So everybody that wants to transfer, currently there's room for them to do that?
The buses are starting to get full, so we're having to scramble a little bit. Not for all the trains, there's just a couple in the middle that people want that
But
connection.
I'm assuming busing, that's easy to expand. That's
You
not
would think.
$200 billion.
We work with LAPTA in the Tri-Valley, and they provide that. So yeah, as long as we give them enough lead time to think about it
Okay.
and get it in their job boards. And
What's the time frame that, if just left on its own, when would there be a better connection? Like how far into the future?
Well, there is a possibility for a more direct connection going through to Union City, but I think people mentally won't want to do that. They'll want to get on BART sooner than go through Niles Canyon and then make a little jog to Union City. Supervisor Haggerty in Alameda County, the BART board, City of Livermore, they are working very hard to try to advance an expansion, and then they've considered some what I would call staged expansion, maybe first going to Isabel, maybe seeing what it would take to do that and how that could work. But I think Greenville is the ultimate direct fix for the region.
I don't really know where those places are, but just
Right.
time frame, it's just from this point forward, left on its own, how long would it take before, just on its normal course, at what date in the future would there be a better connection?
You want to offer? The expansion.
Okay, so I just have a very simple question. Left on its own,
What's the
at
best-
what's the date when these two will be better connected?
Yeah, what did the study?
So there's no plan that's going to be implemented sometime in the future to connect ACE train to BART?
So the San Jose extension has.
So we don't know, I think
About-
is the, right.
We're 12 years in on the San Jose extension, and it's not quite done. So, I mean, these are decades. Because when you talk billions, you talk decades.
Senator Galgiani.
So we're all familiar with BART, but a lot of people here aren't as familiar with the Caltrain system. The ACE system runs into the Silicon Valley and connects with Santa Clara, correct? And they have you can cross over and get onto Caltrain. You can get off of ACE
Yes.
and cross over a platform and get directly onto Caltrain that takes you through Santa Clara, San Jose, down the peninsula, and up through Sacramento, or up to San Francisco. Now, they're going to be utilizing about $750 million from my Prop 1A. And so can you walk us through how you envision ACE connecting with Caltrain and those improved services and the timing for that? Because I know that the electrification, the $770 million for the electrification, that environmental work is underway now, and they're anticipating to have service with electrification in the next couple of years, as I recall.
And that'll make that transfer very attractive. I think the time penalty right now to transfer and just the speeds of Caltrain are a little bit slower. It doesn't have as big of draw, especially to San Francisco, that we would think. A lot of draw kind of in the mid-peninsula area and south. But the San Francisco trip, if we can connect to a faster electrified Caltrain, that really opens up that train option as a much more viable.
But as it is now, somebody can actually get off ACE and just walk across the platform and get on. And
Right.
how many minutes does that take?
They have a new platform scenario, so you have to hike around a little bit. It's probably a 3-minute little walk.
3 minutes.
But Caltrain made an improvement so we can continue the concept of transferring passengers between Caltrain and ACE. Now, as they electrify, our ability to do some of the other concepts we had about a one-seat ride, maybe borrowing the Caltrain tracks with an ACE train, I think as they get into electrification, that option is not going to be there.
Okay, any additional questions? I really appreciate the presentation. I think I have a whole lot more faith in ACE than I do in the 49ers right now, but I appreciate those comments, and maybe we'll take advantage of ACE to go to a game here this next year and restore our faith. Okay, at this time, we're going to move to item 6 on the agenda, the testimonials for the San Joaquin and ACE improvement and expansion, and we're going to begin with Supervisor Chiesa. Thank you, Supervisor, for being here.
Hey, thank you guys for coming and holding this committee meeting. Chair, fellow Assembly Member Olson, Senators Galgiani and Cannella, I so much appreciate. I know you guys have been strong advocates for rail, and we look forward to that continually working with you. Myself, I serve as the chairman of the COG, which I'll bring up at the very end, our Council of Governments, and I'm also a board member on the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority. I have a lot of personal experience in the San Joaquin Rail. I'm just going to touch on both of those and maybe an idea at the end, but I just wrote it. I'm a frequent rider. I just took it down to Bakersfield. My son's going to CSU Bakersfield, so it's an enjoyable ride for me. I take the last train. I get down there about 11:30 at night on a Friday. And I'm always checking with folks to see who's riding rail. I like to strike up conversations. And last time I sat next to a student who was coming out of the Bay Area, out of Oakland, riding it down to Bakersfield. That was her end. And then there was a family, mother and her daughter, who was heading through down to the LA area. Discuss with them cleanliness, the Wi-Fi, everything. It's just it's a pleasurable experience for most people. But as Dan had talked about, it is leisure travel. We do have, and looking forward from our Joint Powers Authority, we are definitely looking for more service. Myself personally, and probably for you guys too, I'd like to see another route to Sacramento, another train to Sacramento. We have to start at the midpoint, and we're going to have to pick up, although it's intercity passenger rail, we need to pick up some business travelers. Makes absolute sense. It doesn't work most of the time for me to take it to Sacramento like it wouldn't for yourself. But I think there's great opportunity going forward. And I don't want to repeat as to what it's going to cost and what it's going to take, but we're going to have to continually add service, much like our northern counterpart. They have much better train service, hourly train service. So as a partner with Caltrans, as a partner with you, we look forward to finding funding opportunities for that. Also, we're talking about ACE. I've taken ACE over, got to ride it over to Levi Stadium. Obviously it's clean, it's on-time performance. That's what we need to improve on the San Joaquin. But they're doing great work there. We need to look at a funding model, and this brings me to the last point. As the chairman of the COG, we're an aspiring county going out for a half-cent sales tax, I believe, depending on the polling numbers, in 2016. And although we don't have an expenditure plan at this time, rail, I would expect it to be a component of the half-cent sales tax. It is something that's important when we talk about building more lane miles. Yes, that works, but having more train service, having more mass transportation, having a better busing system is all a part of it. As we just did our regional transportation plan, it was okayed by the Air Board, and then we're out of compliance essentially going forward because they changed the modeling, changed things in the modeling. So we're going to have to continue to look at ways of getting cars off the road, and this is going to be one of them. When I talk about another financing, you guys have talked about cap and trade. This fits right in the bailiwick of cap and trade. And also, I have to say, when I talk with high-speed rail proponents, they talk about coming the northern half north of Merced. I'm not advocating for or against high-speed rail. I just want to tell them that we have two systems that are already in place, if improved, will serve as Northern California's rail system. We can, if we have dedicated track north of Stockton, we work it out with UP, either in the right-of-way or a shared line, putting in enough sidetrack. We can get up to Sacramento in an hour. That's plenty from Merced. We can get over to the Bay Area with some improvements, but we need to access the high-speed rail money, and we can do it cheaper. The reason we went to a Joint Powers Authority is we figured we can do it better than Caltrans. We will prove, Bob will prove, John will prove, myself. Well, I'm missing a board member, John, who's missing. We can do it better. There's no doubt with your help. And we're on the same page. We've got good leadership leading the way. So I have a lot of confidence. I thank you guys for your time coming down here. I'm at your disposal. I'm in Sacramento all the time, beating you guys up on transportation and other things, or working hopefully in conjunction. So again, this is important for Stanislaus County. It's important for Merced County. It's important for the Valley. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Supervisor. And now if we could have Supervisor Walsh approach and make your presentation.
Thank you very much. A special thanks to all of you, and to Assemblyman Gray, but to all of you for holding the hearing here in the Valley and giving us the opportunity, and we greatly appreciate that. As an elected official, I'm speaking today, but also as a periodic rider of the San Joaquin Valley, or the San Joaquin service. Specifically, I've recently had the opportunity to ride the train that leaves Sacramento at about 5:05 and is a direct route to back to the Valley. I will share with you that if you had dropped me off at the train station at 5:05 or 5 o'clock, so I caught the train, and we were going to race to see who got back to Merced at the same time, in light of the traffic I normally see in Sacramento at about 5 o'clock, I would have beat you, because I get there at about 7:15, 7:20 in the afternoon, or in the evening after that ride home. It's a terrific opportunity. In terms of my experience, you get to return calls, the power of electronics, review emails, review materials, and if you are so inclined, you also get the opportunity to have an adult beverage on the ride home. And so, and not that I'm advocating for adult beverage, but it is. So I've also had the opportunity to ride the train to San Joaquin to San Francisco. I was going up there for a series of meetings and was going to spend, and when I began to price it out, trying to be a little price sensitive, I realized I can ride the train up and back for less than I can pay to park for one day when I was in the city. I didn't count for that I would have to pay to get across the bridge or wear and tear on my vehicle. It literally was one day's worth of parking was what the price of my ticket would have been up and back. So I think there is a real strong opportunity for ridership for these expansions for the San Joaquin, if we could just get to Sacramento early enough. The challenge is when you're riding up, if you're going to ride it up in the morning, you can get there about 11. my meetings start before 11 o'clock. And so many times what I'm doing is riding up with somebody else and taking the train home because they're staying over to do other things. So I really think additional direct trains getting us there in the morning would be a terrific opportunity. You're hearing the opportunity about the expansion. Additionally, what it would do is it would provide alternatives, both the ACE expansion and the San Joaquin expansion, for 20,000 people who commute out of Merced County daily for jobs, north and to the Bay Area. The implications to our potential of getting us out of the cars, to our air quality, to reducing our emissions to the greenhouse gases are really significant. I happen to also serve as Merced County's representative to San Joaquin Air Pollution Control District, and so air quality issues are really an important issue to us. And so the opportunity to expand those options for people in the valley clearly would serve us well, both in terms of health, economics, and others. I also see it as, because of those impacts to air quality and greenhouse gas, a clear candidate for cap and trade dollars in terms of that expansion, as well as the communities they serve, which are clearly, those are disadvantaged communities. So it just seems like this is a nice position to be in. We have resources, we have the opportunity to move forward, and I appreciate your guys' advocacy in that. And if there's any opportunity for myself and my colleagues in assisting you in this advocacy, we look forward to doing that. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Supervisor. Do we have any questions? Senator Galgiani.
Supervisor, you said 20,000 commuters. Is that from Merced County or the city of Merced?
Merced County.
Merced County. 20,000 is a huge number.
Well, that's a big number. Thank you very much.
As one of those 20,000 commuters almost on a daily basis, I can certainly agree with your comments.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. If we could have Supervisor Bastarrida's approach from San Joaquin County. Welcome, Supervisor.
Thank you, Chair. Steve Bastarrida, San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors. I think Supervisor Wynn is here. Supervisor Wynn, I saw him earlier back there. Just wanted to acknowledge his presence. I greatly appreciate having the opportunity to briefly make my presentation, which is going to be really short on the technical part because we've heard it before. I will talk about the economic and environmental benefits briefly, that it saves time for passengers and improves the quality of their life. It takes automobiles off our busy, congested highways, enhances public safety, reduces emissions, generates good jobs. And here's a real important tidbit. By 2035, the 580 corridor, the traffic is projected to increase by 75% in that time frame. So we need to look forward to solutions. I want to just kind of share three stories, and I appreciate Supervisor Walsh personalizing things. That's really what I wanted to get across today. My own experience, I have attended conferences in Santa Clara and taken the ACE service to promote the greater Silicon Valley. And in that process, we are supporting, we have an office at the end of the line that San Joaquin Partnership has, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from Mike Amon, where we actually court companies on behalf of all the cities in San Joaquin County to come to San Joaquin County. I have frequently traveled the San Joaquin services since 1983. I had the pleasure of working in Bakersfield and coming home every weekend as a young man out of college. And I've noticed a significant multiple increase in the population throughout the valley, but not so much in services to rail. So it's an important need for a growing valley. Lastly, and on a more personal note, because I think conveying personal stories are important to understand how important the use of public transportation is. I have a 25-year-old son with special needs who has required significant medical attention since the day he was born. A simple dental visit requires 3 trips to San Francisco, and then once we get that squared away, then It's in a hospital environment with anesthesia and a backup crash crew, and it's a very complicated process. At times, he has spent weeks in the hospital, and I have commuted every day back and forth because the world doesn't stop because of challenges that we have. And my point here, healthcare is near and dear to me. San Joaquin County probably enjoys one of the most profitable hospitals in the state of California, and I can say on a per capita basis, we are the absolutely most profitable hospital. Delivering healthcare services to our underserved communities is really important to me. My personal comments are not about Steve Bestelaritis. I have the means to provide the services for my family. It's about the underserved community and the needs that our children have, and not just special needs children, but children throughout our valley, and the needs of these services that just aren't provided in the valley. And access and affordability of health care is a really important component, and we've worked on that federally and at the state level to provide good health care, and now we have to work on providing the transportation link to get these families that are underserved to have the same access that I've been able to provide for my son. Thank you very much for your time and having this hearing in public before everyone here in Modesto. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. At this time, we'll go ahead and ask Yamilet Violodide from the Hispanic Leadership Council to join us, President of the Hispanic Leadership Council. Thank you and welcome. Nice to see you.
Hi, thank you for having me, Senator Canela, Assemblyman Olson, Assembly Gray, and Senator Calgiani. It's a pleasure to be here. Again, as the President of the Hispanic Leadership Council, which is an organization that champions educational advancements, improvements, and opportunities for local Latinos and youth, as we support 21 high school Hispanic Youth Leadership Council clubs throughout the North Valley, which consists of hundreds of students, if not thousands, of local youth with dreams of higher education. Sometimes one of the barriers is transportation, if living on campus is not an option. Yet with the rail expansion of services throughout the valley for opportunities to access UOP in Stockton, Modesto Junior College here in Modesto, CSU Stanislaus in Turlock, UC Merced, obviously in Merced, all the rural areas with stops will bring that opportunity closer to some of these young people for the opportunity to create a better quality of life for all residents in the region, and recognizing that Latinos will account for the largest growth of our population in coming years. And the expansion will provide our area youth and residents with the ability to connect with the Silicon Valley, Bay Area, Sacramento, and up and down the valley for business, jobs, and other important travel. So I just really wanted to touch on that on the education piece through HYLC. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions? Assemblymember Olson.
Hi, Yamilet. How are you?
Hi, great, thank
Have
you.
you guys done any surveys or even just anecdotal conversations with your clientele about how many of them would be interested in riding rail services if it were more convenient in terms of times of travel, et cetera?
What we have done is we have had some presentations, and they have been very well received through some community events. And it's through the education piece. I think that it's the students that living at on campus is really not going to be an option due to cost. So the parents want them to continue to live at home to reduce that cost. But then the transportation barrier that could really hinder as far as that's concerned. That's what we have heard mainly.
From home to Valley universities?
Yes, whether it's even something is, it's just go to Stockton or to UC Merced. That can definitely hinder a lot to some families, because there may not be the means of the economic means to have them move to those particular cities.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mike Amon, President and CEO of San Joaquin Partnership, please approach and make your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the opportunity to come before you this morning. I am an ACE writer, and as Steve said, we do have an office in Sunnyvale, And for those who haven't experienced ACE, you ride down and then you jump on a bus. In about 2 minutes, a whole bunch of people are going to many, many, many different companies, high-tech companies, to work. But in addition to just traveling to my office, I'll give you one example. There was a conference at the Computer Museum, which is up by Microsoft, and so you can ride the orange bus. And this conference was about transportation in the Bay Area, and Silicon Valley in particular. And the question was asked, how many commuted by mass transit to this meeting? There was 300 people there. There were 3 people who raised their hand, including me. So I do know when that 5 o'clock train goes in the morning. Although we do have an office and we do have a brand called Greater Silicon Valley in attracting high wages out to the valley, we are the San Joaquin Partnership. And when you talk partnership, you talk to your partners here in Stanislaus as well as Merced. So to help us attract those high-wage jobs, we've gone through a process of working with the University of the Pacific and Jeff Michael in compiling a lot of information about our connection back into Sacramento as well as the Bay Areas and Silicon Valley. And it's called the North San Joaquin Valley Regional Assessment Project. And that was completed last November of 14. And from that, we thought, well, we should use this in some way to promote our overall activity between these two areas. And so on August 27th at the Doubletree in Pleasanton, all 3 economic development groups will present an alternative for companies to expand in our 3-county area. So this is very important to understand that although we compete individually for locations, we cooperate and work together, which is exactly what it's going to take to expand the service down to Merced. When I look at the numbers today, there's about 1.5 million people in those 3 counties, and these are state numbers. If you look at Sacramento, we're larger than Sacramento County today. So we have, let's just round it off and say we're at 1.5 million versus Sacramento at 1.475. So this extension up to Sacramento and our 3-county region is extremely important when you look over the next 10 years and making sure that ACE actually gets this extension. Because in that short 10-year period, these 3 counties are going to grow to 1.7 million people versus Sacramento growing to 1.6. So the difference is about 380,000 people. That's Stockton today, the 13th largest city in the state. So over the next 10 years, traffic congestion, all means, buses to BART, rail service, we're going to need it if we as a 3-county region here are going to be able to access Sacramento and the Bay Area. So my point being here is that we're growing and everyone around us is growing. If you haven't been into the Bay Area and ridden BART, for example, which I did last week, the economy of the Bay Area and Silicon Valley has outpaced its infrastructure. I've ridden BART forever. You get on BART today, I put my earphones in to listen to some music, and I can't hear it. It's because of the cars, it's because of the rail beds, it's because of the lack of maintenance that has occurred during this downturn that we've seen. If you try to drive in there, say on a Saturday evening for an event, good luck. As you come up to go over the bridge, all you see is cars going in. It's all filled, and they're all stopped. So my point here is we've got a chance to get ahead of what's going on right now in our overall growth and provide some alternatives for folks to bring some jobs out here and also stay connected as such. And finally, you just heard about education and connection. You know, with ACE connecting to Merced, all of a sudden this three-county region has access, rail access, to a UC campus, to a CSU campus, to a private university, and 3 community colleges. That's a very, very powerful connection because we all know as employers our future rests upon the ability of a higher skilled and educated labor force. So as a group of 3 economic developers, we're very proud to represent this area, and we're very proud that you've taken on the responsibility to give us infrastructure that will allow us to grow these communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move to Dave Gianelli, Chairman of Modesto Chamber of Commerce, board member, and the Modesto Downtown Partnership. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Assemblymember Gray, for putting this on, and all of you for coming today. I just wish the ACE had been to Modesto earlier. I've spent a number of weekends, Friday nights picking up my kids in Lathrop, and Monday mornings dropping them off. They were at San Francisco State, and I now have a niece at Santa Clara University, and I know her parents are going through the same thing. So I wish it was here sooner, and it is so needed now. Now, I'm looking at ACE from the perspective of the impact that it will have on Modesto's downtown. Everything I read states that we have more singles and empty nesters. They don't want to drive. Instead, they want to live within walking distance of transportation centers. They want to be productive en route to work. With the ACE train, they can be on their computers, their iPads, and their cell phones. What this means is that when ACE stops in the downtown, it creates demand for downtown housing and downtown business. This has been shown in other communities. Look at what has developed around the BART stations. Incredible economic development, more jobs, good jobs. Multi-use buildings where people can live, shop, work, and play, all within walking distance. ACE will bring an economic boon to Modesto's downtown, Turlock's downtown, Merced's downtown, and at the same time reduce vehicle miles traveled, resulting in better air quality, improved productivity, and improved quality of life. The Chamber and the Downtown Partnership are and will be strong advocates for the ACE train to come to our community. We will work our hardest to get the self-help status through the transportation tax that we need to sustain it. But it is very tough to pass sales tax measures in our counties. Both Stanislaus and Merced counties have severe poverty. People do not perceive that they can afford to pay more. People have lost hope. They don't see the opportunities, and many have developed a very cynical attitude. We need to all work together to help to change these attitudes, and we need Sacramento's help. We all know we get very few of our tax dollars back from Sacramento compared to other wealthier counties. I don't know what state or funding sources, state or federal funding sources are available, but we need to also pursue other avenues of funding to sustain the ACE train in the event we're not successful in getting the self-help tax through. We need more advocacy on these issues. You guys have been wonderful advocates for our communities, but we need more help in this arena. The Chamber and the Downtown Partnership are here to help you help us in this endeavor. I also have a letter. Cecil was going to do a testimonial today as well, and he asked me to read his, and so I'm going to read that too. This is from Cecil Russell. He's the executive of Modesto Chamber of Commerce. I fully support the expansion and improvement plans for ACE and the San Joaquin into the Valley. Better connectivity to the Bay and Sacramento equates to better commerce and a boost to economic activity in our San Joaquin Valley region. The Modesto Chamber of Commerce recognizes the significance of improved rail to address our impending population growth, as well as safeguarding new trends created by technology and the shifting needs from millennials and our aging population. Commerce is changing, the valley is changing, our population is changing. We need to bring innovative and advanced infrastructure such as ACE to make our region more competitive and attractive to industry leaders. I have taken both the ACE train and the Amtrak and have seen firsthand how beneficial both services are to our residents. I've been impressed by how the ACE train connects to many of our Valley residents, to high-tech companies in the Silicon Valley, and equally impressed how the San Joaquin connects the entire San Joaquin Valley corridor to Northern and Southern California. If we can show our streamlined connectivity with both of these rail services, it will make us that much more competitive to attract corporations and companies to consider either moving or having a hub in the region. I encourage our Valley legislators to help us expand ACE into our region and implement a more efficient San Joaquin Amtrak service to help us diversify and expand our economic vitality in Modesto and throughout our San Joaquin Valley. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At this time, we're going to move to our last testimonial. Loretta Williams, ACE PAC member. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me. So, I just want to share with you about my experience on ACE and why I actually moved out here to the Valley. Some 12 years ago, I lived in Union City. I have 4 kids, ages back then 10, 13, 14, and 16. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, and I told my husband, you know what, babe, it's time for us to look for a house. We need a bigger place. Kids are growing up. 3 boys, they're going to get big and huge. So we decided, let's look out in the Valley. We started over in Mountain House, didn't like that. Drove over to Tracy. I said, I like Tracy. I said, my friend who already had moved to Tracy, former coworker, he told me, he said, you have the ACE train now. They're here. You can go ahead and hop on the ACE train. You don't have to be in that traffic, making that long commute. And I said, okay, that's promising. We found a wonderful house in Tracy. Started taking the ACE train 12 years ago. Love it. Absolutely love it. I would have never made the move without the ACE train being here. It's a wonderful experience. Stacy says it's crowded. Yeah, it is. But you know what? It's still comfortable. Very comfortable still. I'll take ACE over BART anytime. You have restrooms on the ACE train. Yay! I've met so many people in my daily commute from Tracy to Fremont. Some of these people, I see them, we are actually like family now because I see them every day, in the morning, in the evening. ACE, I actually love ACE so much, I said, we have a passenger advisory council. I'm a member of that council now. Anything I can do to help help ACE to promote it, to help them to expand, I'm there. I have friends who live out here in Stanislaus County. They love the ACE train. They want to be able to hop on the ACE train to be able to go to different places. I have other friends who actually live in Sacramento who drive from Sacramento to Stockton to hop on the ACE train so that they can go to work in San Joaquin County, San Jose. So the ACE train is very beneficial to a lot of people's lives. I love it because I get to sit on the train, relax by playing cards. Yeah, I sit in the party car. So if you ever ride the train, just look for me. I'm always in the party car. Absolutely love it. Other passengers tell us, we can't believe you guys are up so early in the morning playing cards. Everybody else is tired, grumpy, sleepy. We come here, and they actually get a thrill out of hearing us hearing the laughter, the fun that we have by being able to commute and just relax. So I'm, anything that you all could do to support the expansion of ACE, to help the ACE train to keep on pushing, that'll be great. I heard Mr. Johnson, he said ACE is small, but I'll just say it's also mighty.
Thank you for your presentation. Certainly going to have to talk to my colleagues about checking out this party car. What's going on? We're going to take a look at that. Obviously, we've had a great turnout here this morning. We're getting close to the end of our allotted period of time. I know there's a great deal of interest. In fact, I think we've got a little over 30 requests to speak. I would ask that we try to keep those remarks as brief as possible so that we can move through this. We're going to go a little over time as it is, but if you could keep your comments brief. I also want to just take a moment. I think we have a number of staff members for the respective state representatives here. If you all might raise your hand so that people can see where you're at in case they have additional questions that they want to ask. Yeah, why don't you guys go ahead and stand up so we can see you. Okay, so you can see there's a number of staff members throughout here, so if you have some additional questions after the hearing, please take advantage of that. With that, if you could try to keep your remarks to about 1 minute, we can move through this. We will start with Bill Lyons representing Mapes Ranch. Well, welcome.
Well, thank you, and good morning, Chairman Gray and members of the California Assembly Select Committee and on rail and members of the Senate Select Committee. On passenger rail, my name is Bill Lyons, and I'm a farmer and rancher, business owner in Stanislaus County, Merced County, and San Joaquin County. Our family has resided in the valley and operated our farming and business operations for over 90 years. So both myself and my family are extremely interested and invested in seeing our community prosper. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. And I hope the audience realizes how fortunate we are to have these elected leaders showing this type of leadership, especially on a bipartisan level. I want to keep my comments brief. As we all know, passenger rail plays an important role in reducing highway and airport congestion. Is that my minute already? Okay. Anyway, I'm supportive of expansion, and I think for our community, it'll be great for jobs, the economy, and it's something we really need. I appreciate your support. Anything I can do or my family can do, we're on board. So thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Tim Sabranti, representing Congressman Eric Swalwell.
Good morning. My name is Tim Sabranti. I'm the Deputy Chief of Staff for Congressman Eric Swalwell. I want to thank you for holding this hearing and just express on behalf of the Congressman his top transportation priority, which is connecting BART to ACE. And I know there was some conversation about that earlier. It's something that I think we all recognize would be a game changer for all of our residents, both here in the Central Valley and residents in the Tri-Valley and the Bay Area, to be able to free up capacity on 580 for goods movement, to be able to create that critical transportation link where people could get off of ACE, which is a fantastic service, step across the platform, and then connect to other parts of the Bay Area. So whatever our office can do to assist in your efforts individually, collectively, I'll be meeting with representatives of Congressman Denham's staff later today. This is a bipartisan issue, and it's something I think we can all work together that'll have a collective impact that'll really improve mobility for all of our residents. So just let us know how we can be helpful.
Thank you. Councilmember McCabe from the City of Livingston.
Thank you for your time today. City of Livingston just wanted to give its enthusiastic support for the ACE train. We get anecdotal evidence from our citizens all the time that if there's a station in Livingston, they will be using it. We will see more opportunities for our youth and more opportunities for economic growth. We are really excited at this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Riley, City of Livermore.
Good afternoon, Chair Gray and members, distinguished members of the Senate and Assembly. I'll make my presentation short, but I wanted to read into the record a letter from the Mayor of Livermore, John Marchand, about the interregional connection between ACE and BART. On behalf of the Tri-Valley, which in this case is Dublin, Pleasanton, and Livermore, I'd like to thank you for your support of interregional rail connections by supporting the ACE Forward project. Altamont Commuter Express provides a key rail link from the San Joaquin Valley to the Tri-Valley and further beyond into the Bay Area. Transportation improvements in the I-580 Altamont corridor, like completing the Tri-Valley BART extension to Livermore and connecting BART to ACE, as described in the Bay Area's Regional Transit Plan from 2007, will yield economic and environmental benefits not only for the San Joaquin Valley and the Tri-Valley, but the greater Bay Area region. These transportation improvements will provide better access to the San Joaquin Valley and Bay Area destinations, encourage economic revitalization, interconnect an educated workforce to jobs, decrease freeway congestion, and improve air quality, all of which promotes a healthy quality of life. I just have another paragraph. As you know, the Tri-Valley is considered to be a hub of technology and innovation, serving as an economic engine for the entire Bay Area region and the San Joaquin Valley. In fact, the Tri-Valley is growing at a faster rate than the Bay Area as a whole, which is one reason why the I-580 corridor is one of the most congested freeways in the Bay Area. It is projected that the number of households in the Tri-Valley will grow by 31% between 2010 and 2040, and commute volumes will continue to increase from the Tri-Valley to San Francisco, Santa Clara, and San Mateo counties. We know this commute pattern is also true from the San Joaquin Valley into the Bay Area, which makes the need for a reliable and efficient interregional rail link to the Tri-Valley and Bay Area jobs centers even more critical. This is why the Tri-Valley region wants to partner with you and strongly support your efforts to implement the ACE Forward project. Like you, we want to ensure that this crucial interregional rail link between ACE and the Tri-Valley BART to Livermore extension becomes a reality. Thank you for your support. And just as a quick context, the City of Livermore is working right now with BART to extend BART to Isabel Avenue, which was mentioned earlier. And it is our goal, although it's not the plan yet, is to get it out to Greenville with a direct connection to BART. And that is our goal, and we need advocacy, we need help to do that. But right now we have the money, and we're working through and getting the plans done to get it at least to Isabel, which is partway there.
Do you have a timeline, even just as a goal in mind?
So
for Greenville?
So I can tell you the timeline to get it to Isabel, it's about a 4.8-mile link, is about 7 to 9 years to get it done and be riding on and have it finished. And we don't have a time frame to get it out to Greenville because we haven't secured approvals for it, we haven't secured money, but we really are hearing from our residents in Livermore and the Tri-Valley as a whole that they want to get it out to Greenville and have a direct link to BART. So we need help to do that.
And one more question, sorry. We had heard it's about $3.5 billion to get to Greenville. How much would that be reduced by once you're to Isabel?
Our project Isabel is $1.2 billion. I don't know if the exact math works where you minus that from the $3.5 billion, but it might be around that. So a little less than $3 billion might be the next step to get to Greenville.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, if we're going to ask John Bramble with the City of Merced, and while John approaches, if we could have Mary Ann Payne and Sean Scully as well come up in the on-deck spot.
Good morning. Thank you for the hearing, and we appreciate the fact that you're as big a supporter of the rail as you are. I want to focus just quickly on ACE. I believe in the theory that the state's economy is only as strong as its weakest link. And because of that, I truly believe that the ACE train is going to be a catalyst not only for our economic opportunities, but for a reliable transportation system between Merced and the Bay Area. So I'm going to condense here because I'm already too long. But I really believe that our college students from Merced College, as well as our university students, will be able to remain within Merced to commute to the Bay Area for the jobs that they are being educated to take. In addition to that, and this is a moment of pride, secondarily, we believe that the investment that the city, the university, and the Small Business Development Center has made in a new venture lab, that it will allow for those venture capitalists to come to our community and to invest in those ideas and inventions that are going to come out of this lab that hopefully you all visit on October 15th. I could say more, but I can tell you that we really believe that this is going to be a great arm for our economic prosperity and to changing our economic opportunities within our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Ann Payne.
Good afternoon, or morning, afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm here representing Alameda County Supervisor Scott Haggerty from District 1, your neighbor in Alameda County. And I just want to piggyback on to Mayor Marchand from Livermore's remarks, as well as Congressman Swalwell's office, and say we're fully supporting the ACE Forward program, and also very supportive of closing the 10-mile gap connecting the BART system with the ACE line in the Tri-Valley. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sean Scully.
Good afternoon, Assembly members, Senator. My name is Sean Scully. I'm the city manager with the city of Gustine. Gustine Mayor Dennis Brazil was regrettably unable to attend today, but wanted me to attend and testify on his behalf for his support of the project. Additional transportation alternatives not only give commuters more choice, but perhaps as importantly, provide an important economic development tool for the valley. At this time, we need to tap into any potential efficiency we can to become more competitive from an economic development perspective, and we believe ACE Train can help with that. Thank you.
Okay, we've got COG representatives from San Joaquin, Fresno, Merced, and Stanislaus.
Good afternoon. I'm Rosa Park with the Stanislaus Council of Governments. I also want to thank you. You heard the testimonial from our board chair, Vito Chiesa. I just want to say that we are strong supporters of both services and along improving the services along the San Joaquin corridor. Thank you.
Morning, Tony Bourne, Fresno Council of Governments. Just here on behalf of the drive this morning, want to come up and just really just give say some thank yous. First to you folks for taking the leadership and having the wisdom and the foresight to recognize the benefits of improving passenger rail in the valley and what it can do for us. 1779 was the start of it. We had to navigate that through the process. You did a great job with that. We got that done, and we had to form the actual committee itself, had to form the JPA. All the supervisors were here, Chair Pedroza, Supervisor Pedrea, Supervisor Rogers, all of those folks have displayed tremendous commitment to this endeavor. Once a month, they take a Friday afternoon and drive somewhere up and down the valley to do business. We continue to move forward. I will say this, as divided as we may have been in the valley on high-speed rail, we were completely united on the San Joaquin, formation of San Joaquin, so I'm very proud of that. And then lastly, I want to thank Stacy and Dan and their team, because we wouldn't be where we're at today if they weren't involved with this. I was fortunate enough to be on the selection panel, and we made them, chose them as the operating entity, and they've validated our selection. Very proud of that. So kudos, and we believe the future is very bright for passenger rail in the valley. Thank you.
I want to say thank you to coming up to Modesto, the north part of the valley, to support these projects as well. It's one of the great things about serving as a legislator for the San Joaquin Valley is seeing all the counties support one another, and we look forward to when these rail services can go down to Fresno and beyond into Bakersfield. So thank you for being here.
Hi, I'm Ron Taylor. I'm president of Merced College, and I'm really happy to be here. And I want to thank you for your service and for your optimism and for your practical orientation. It was wonderful to hear all the comments earlier. It helps me in my optimism. These are very complex problems, and they demand solutions, as we've been hearing from everybody. I'm here because, as a college person, a lot of times people don't quite realize that part of the mission of the community colleges is actually economic development. So I try to stay in touch with the economic development of our region. And our way as a college of serving that is workforce development. But in order to do that, I need to know what's going on. And I'm also here as a passionate Californian. And I favor public investment. I think you've heard some things today about that, and I think I'm glad to hear that people are stepping forward for that. I also want to mention on a personal note that early in my career, my first teaching job was in Japan, and I used the regional transit system in Japan as well as a high-speed rail in Japan, and I can tell you the future is there. The future is in multimodal transport. I've been privileged to participate in the work on planning a multimodal station in Merced, and it's just obvious. Our lives are becoming multimodal, and this is something we all need to think about and support. And I'm happy to hear that the cost actually for the expansions you're talking about looks to me relatively modest. So, thank you.
Thank you, President. We have Nate Knopf with the RTD out of Stockton.
Thank you for the chance to speak today and for the hearing down here. I'm a transit route planner in Stockton. I'm a lifelong user of rail. I've actually ridden rail before Amtrak existed. I've drove a Southern Pacific trip to Seattle many years ago. I've used the services every year since then, essentially. I do want to say that it's important ACE comes to downtown Modesto, which has been said many times, and downtown's today's trip as an example is I have to leave at 12:15 to catch a 142 train within the city of Modesto to take a 33-minute trip to Stockton. And this morning, unfortunately, due to freight congestion, our train was late and missed our bus coming in. So it would have been, the average person would probably not do it again and drive their car. So, but I'm pretty persistent. But I just want you to know it's very important down the road we get schedule reliability so train and bus schedules can be coordinated, because that's the only way you'll really win people over to trains and transit in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Isaiah Rumayor with the UC Merced student in the I Will Ride group, I think.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for having me. My name is Isaiah, and I am a student from UC Merced. I'm here with my friends, colleagues for I Will Ride, and I Will Ride is in support of all alternative transportation. As a student, it's really hard to commute to job workforce. I would personally like a job in Sacramento and in the Bay Area, but since I live in the Central Valley, I can't commute that often because of class and everything. This would be a great right-of-way to not only provide jobs, internships, but also to provide commuters for students. We could have kids going to Sacramento and living there. Sorry, excuse me, I'm a little sick. Living there and commuting to UC Merced. And that is one of my dreams one day. I know we're not going to benefit it from right now, but in the future, hopefully my kids or my other colleagues will be benefiting commuting for train or Amtrak or whatever it is. Thank you guys very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. If we could have Lacey Kirikou as well as from UC Merced, as well as Janelle Myers from University of the Pacific.
Good afternoon. My name is Lacey Kiriakou. I'm representing the University of California, Merced. And UC Merced was placed in the San Joaquin Valley to increase the college-going rates in our region and to provide students the opportunity to study at a world-class research institution here in the Valley. The campus has long been a supporter of expanded rail service in the San Joaquin Valley. We enroll over 6,000 students from throughout California. Nearly a third of those are from the Bay Area. And we're in support of easing travel for students between UC Merced and their family home and increasing rail connections between the San Joaquin Valley and the rest of the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Why don't we go ahead, any additional folks who have put in a card, just go ahead and start to come up and make your comments. Oh, I forgot, I just skipped Janelle. Janelle, why don't you go ahead first, and then...
Sorry, thank you. Thank you. My name is Janelle Myers, and on behalf of University of the Pacific, we'd like to add a voice in support of improved and expanded San Joaquin and ACE passenger rail service. With campuses in Stockton, Sacramento, and San Francisco, the university is deeply and increasingly connected to the Northern California mega region. Improved transportation options will help our students, faculty, and staff access campus and community resources in the cities where they live, work, and study, and do so in ways that are safer, more time efficient, and greener. Increased connectivity will facilitate not just Pacific's growth, but will also fuel economic development throughout San Joaquin and Stanislaus counties. Our researchers believe passenger rail improvements also promise stronger overall ridership. We know that successful regional rail systems need high-frequency service to be convenient. Our service is good now, but expansion will mean more trains, better schedules, and ultimately more riders. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Brad Barker. I live here in Modesto. This overwhelming love fest where we all seem to agree completely on this makes you wonder why it's taking so long. I mean, if there's a more bipartisan issue that we all agree on, then why aren't we doing it? Why isn't it here already? What's taking so long? My comment, though, I want to specifically talk about funding. And I think we need to do a much better job of grabbing that AB 32 money. California's cap and trade law was specifically designed for projects like this that are going to take cars off the highway, that are going to help with our air quality here in this valley. All of you mentioned air quality in your opening remarks. We live in one of the worst air pollution basins in the United States, not just California, in the whole United States. It cost us millions of dollars in health care costs. That AB 32 money is designed specifically for projects like this, to get cars off the highway, to use mass transit, public transportation that are going to help the air quality in this valley. AB 32 money. We don't need another regressive sales tax to fund this. We need AB 32 money. Make the polluters pay here where we're polluted. Thank you.
Brad, I'll respond to that. I appreciate your comments. The reason it's taking so long is because of funding, and you've clearly provided a possible scenario. The good news is we have a formalized San Joaquin Valley caucus now. Every Republican, every Democrat from San Joaquin County down to Kern County has agreed to be part of this effort. One of our priorities is to make sure that the funds that all of us who choose to call the Valley our home are paying into various state programs, including cap and trade, for example, now that fuels are under the cap, et cetera. So now that we're paying for the cap and trade program, even at the gas pump, we want to make sure that revenue is used in the areas of greatest needs, both economically and in terms of air quality. And science has shown we have the worst air quality in the entire nation here in the San Joaquin Valley, and we also have the highest rates of unemployment. And so we're working together to make sure that those dollars are directed toward the valley instead of areas solely outside of the valley. And the ACE train and the San Joaquin Rail Commission are the perfect projects that can be used for. So we're working on it.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Used to be morning. My name is Ben Duran. I'm a resident of Merced County, currently just a retired resident. In my past life, I was an educator and also worked with the Great Valley Center. Senator Cannella referenced the publication that was put out by the Great Valley Center. If you don't have a copy, I would certainly recommend that you get one. We also did another piece of work while I was there with the University of the Pacific that also referenced the ACE project. And so there's some really good data. I'm not going to get into it with you, but I do want to thank the folks from ACE for their recommendation to start working more with the underrepresented communities. I would urge you folks to do the same thing. I've noticed that all of the speakers today, except for perhaps Brett, who just came before me, were affiliated with someone, and I know that the hearing is for the public, but to be honest with you, we probably all need to do a better job of reaching out to communities that haven't been penetrated yet, because ultimately, if we're going to be asking them for help, if there is the pursuit of a tax or whatever, what my experience has been, as I've talked to more of those communities about this thing, about this ACE, they really, frankly, aren't even aware of it, and when they are, they become great supporters. So I would encourage both our elected representatives, both at Sacramento and in the local areas, and certainly the ACE folks, to do some significant outreach in those areas. Thank you so much for having this hearing today.
Thank you.
Okay, may I?
Senator Galgiani?
Ben, they're not here today because they're in their cars on their way to work on the highway, so they couldn't make it.
Thank you very much. As a senior Valley resident, former planning commissioner, former city councilman, and a vivid cyclist, I strongly support the ACE rail system here in the Valley. I've been here in the Valley for many years, and what I've seen is the Valley, as far as the transportation, has become twice as big, but only half as nice. And I think this is an area where it's obvious that the need is there, the benefits are there, the justification there. We just need the money. We just need to make a few small connections. What are we waiting for? Let's get with it and get it done. Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Michael Kuziak. I'm actually not from the Central Valley. I'm from Castro Valley, which is right on the 580 corridor. And if I could have, I would have taken an ACE train here today. I see the consequences all the time of the lack of investment in the Altamont Pass. In my neighborhood, I'm right in front of a BART station. I use BART every day because of the domino effect of people coming in over the Altamont Pass, trying to get parking at the different BART stations and not getting parking. They come further down the line. They've come into my neighborhood. We actually had to get restricted parking in our neighborhood. There's clearly an issue there where we need to make this investment in the interconnectivity. As a Bay Area resident, we live in this huge region. I'd love to come out here if there was a job opportunity. I think we need to be thinking both ways, not just the Central Valley coming to the Bay Area. We are a huge region. I lived in Germany. You move among regions all the time from one city to another. It's just not a big deal. And my last point that really frustrates me and many Bay Area residents is how disconnected our transit agencies are. You, as state lawmakers, can change that. We need to have them consolidated, working together, planning routes together. Why is there Muni? Why is there BART? Why is there ACE? Why is there Caltrain? You guys can really work on that and make it better for both the Central Valley and Castro Valley.
I'll try to give you a little bit of hope. Assemblywoman Catherine Baker represents your larger area, and one of her #1 priorities this year is to expand parking facilities for BART. As the leader of our caucus, I hear her talk about it every day. So it's a current topic of conversation within our transportation negotiations, and we're working on it.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for being here. And first and foremost, my name is Esperanza Vielma, and I am the executive director of Cafe Coop, a cooperative in downtown Stockton, of which I'm also a resident. And so we help startup businesses and nonprofits, and we currently use the ACE train system to bring in folks from the Bay Area to see what we have to offer in San Joaquin County and Stockton specifically, and then we also have them transport back through the ACE train. I also serve as the Environmental Justice Advisory Group for the San Joaquin Valley Air District as the chairperson, and so I also want to offer support in that way in terms of reaching out to the communities that you spoke of, which would encompass the environmental justice communities, and so I want to offer our support in that way. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Barnbaum, and I founded the grassroots organization Ride Downtown 916 back in April of 2013. Our group is very Sacramento proud and proud to be here today. We want to help in any way possible to expand the San Joaquin and ACE services. There is not service early enough to Sacramento to get to meetings early in the morning. I know from just making reservations myself to go from downtown Sacramento to the Staples Center twice this season to see the Kings play the Clippers. The earliest return arrival back at the Capitol stop is at 10 o'clock in the morning in the bus connection at Stockton. More frequent service will be made available to Lodi and Stockton beginning Monday with the grand opening of the Blue Line to Cosumnes River College. So I'd like to invite all of you and your colleagues to that celebration this Sunday and Monday. The last point we wanted to make was about funding. Seems to be a common theme here. We made this comment at the Senate Select Committee and wanted you to take some thought with you when you leave here today. Many of you know and you're familiar in Sacramento with Proposition 98, with the state budget process that requires constitutional guaranteed funding to go to schools and education. Well, we think that that's missing for all forms of transportation. And we think that one of the ways that we could resolve the funding crisis to our roads, bridges, highways, rail systems, transit systems, airports, and whatever with transportation is a constitutional guarantee funding for transportation. I would like you to consider that during your special session in Sacramento. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Frank McHugh, and I'm from Riverbank, California. I've lived out here 25 years and commuted to the San Francisco Bay Area where I lived before. And I think if the funding might be able to be helped if people would realize what it really costs to drive your car, not just the gas, but the maintenance, the deferred maintenance, the tires, the wear and tear, and then the human value, the wear and tear on your body for driving an hour and a half or 2 hours. It's absolutely terrible. And lastly, if you figure the Amtrak, which I take a lot, my daughter's down at USC, it's the snack car is nice. If they, some way in the future when they're building more ACE trains, if they could have a little snack or adult beverage being able to serve on the train.
Rail to Vine?
I'm sorry?
Rail to Vine?
There you go. And lastly, I'm glad everybody's going to talk together because the Caltrain out of San Jose gets into San Francisco 1 minute after the Amtrak bus leaves to go to Emeryville and the last train down here. It's just, it could be better coordinated. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I'm speaking for myself, who has a business and all my personal life in Santa Clara. So I found out when I moved here that I was going to have to, anywhere from 2 to 3 days a week, deal with Altamont, 580, and 680 to get there. I never knew when I moved here I wasn't going to be able to get on some form of heavy rail and just go, because my whole life, from the time I started college 100 years ago, involved getting on a train to go somewhere. When I met Stacy a couple years ago, my first words were, when are we going to get ACE here? When they first started, we lobbied in Santa Clara for ACE. We lucked out. We got 2 stops in Santa Clara, one that benefited our businesses, one that benefited our downtown and our residents, and never looked back. For our businesses, the economic boon was huge because by then you couldn't really afford, if you were the average working person, to buy a place and live there. You were moving into the Livermore Valley. I encourage you to support this. I encourage everyone to support it. The economics are enormous, both for the community when you start getting the transit-orientated development, for the individual commuter who it's not just the stress and the car and the wear and tear on the car, but it's the lost wages that you make while you're sitting in that car driving it that you can be making while you're riding the ACE train on your laptop or whatever your form of communication is.
Good afternoon. My name is David Ripperda. I work for the San Joaquin Council of Governments. I'm appearing on behalf of our Executive Director, Andrew Chesley, who wishes he could have been here today, but he had a conflict, unfortunately. Just want to say we're highly supportive of both the ACE service and the San Joaquin GAPA and their attempts to expand their service to our communities. We feel that ACE and the San Joaquin service provide a vital service to our communities, and that investing in rail stations in our downtown will be a vital part in implementing our sustainable community strategy and attracting jobs and housing to our downtowns. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman Gray, for convening this hearing today. Senator, my name is Mark Kyle. I represent Operating Engineers Local Union Number 3. We're the largest building and construction trades local in North America with 24,000 members in Northern California, over a third of whom live up and down the Central Valley. We stand in full support of both of these expansion projects for a lot of the reasons already spoken here about earlier today. But mainly, in top of the list is that it will provide good middle-class jobs for our members and for other union members here in Northern California. We also, because we drive up and down the valley, it will mean less cars on the road, better air, a stimulated economy, and because rail is much more energy efficient than buses or cars, it means decreasing the dependency on fossil fuel, which means it's a big step towards fighting global climate change, which is right around the corner despite folks thinking it's further down the road. So let us know what we can do to help you and this committee in moving this agenda forward. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name's Tim Smith. I'm state chairman of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen Teamsters Rail Conference. I brought several people with me from my organization, including my vice chairman, Sean Morgan, and several members of our auxiliary. Everybody has a stake in this. Everybody has an interest in the transportation sector in this great state of California of ours. I worked long and hard to get high-speed rail up and running with Senator Galgiani. So we've had many events, as did many others in this room, including Brother Kyle, who we just spoke. We would like to say we support all of the projects that have been talked about here. We feel that the interconnectivity is very, very important to making this a first-class transportation center throughout the state of California when it interconnects with high-speed rail. We just thank you for the opportunity to be here. We offer the professionals that build, maintain, support, and operate any of the rail entities within the state of California. And if there's anything we can do to help you out, we're at your disposal. Thank you very much.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Pat Patrick. I'm the president and CEO of the Lodi Chamber of Commerce, and I want to say thank you for your support, Senator, and your leadership. It's a great fight. Keep it up. We need it. We've heard lots about a strong demand here from all directions. I'm excited to hear that those trains leaving from Merced, we've always said in Lodi, if we could get the trains running in the right direction at the right time, wow, stand back. We could get a lot of our hundreds of commuters that go to Sacramento every day off the rail. It would gentrify an old neighborhood. I'm quite confident of that because it's a walkable right to the train station, and it would really, really help. But here's the big idea, the dream big idea, right? And let's run that 49er train in reverse, and let's call it a wine train. Let's do a pilot program one weekend and bring those people who your opening comment was, you know, we're often looked upon as a disadvantaged area. Let's put one of our best foots forward. There's a demand for wine and good cheese. So we'll partner with Fiscalini and Hillmar Cheese on this.
Yes.
And we'll have 90 wineries promote in San Jose to get on that train in that pilot weekend and bring them up to Lodi, where at the train station you're literally one block away from 20 brands, 13 tasting rooms, and a lot of one-of-the-kind restaurants. So what was it? Wine to rail?
Rail to vine or rail to wine? We'll have to come up with whatever works.
We'll work on that.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that comment. I love that idea. Certainly we have a lot of challenges here, but we have a lot to be proud of, and we'll work towards that.
Hello, my name is David Garcia. I am the Director of Community Development at 10 Space, which is a real estate development company focusing exclusively on infill development just up the road in Stockton. So I'm here today as a member of the development community to express my strong support for expanded rail service in the Central Valley. In addition to the great environmental benefits that we've heard about today, expanded rail service really is a strong opportunity for transit-oriented development in our Central Valley cities. As you know, places like Stockton, Modesto, Turlock, Merced we have a lot of beautiful historic neighborhoods that could truly benefit from expanded rail service and to realize their true infill potential. So in downtown Stockton, we're very fortunate to have proximity to ACE and San Joaquin service, and that's part of the reason why we've had success in Stockton. And we'd like to see those services extended to our other Central Valley neighbors. So again, I would just like to express our strong support and thank you for having this hearing today. Thank you.
Thank you for coming to Modesto. I'm Wayne Bridegroom. I've been pastor at Central Baptist Church in West Modesto for over 42 years now. The thing that is most important to me that I believe the ACE train can do and is doing has to do with this whole issue of stress, which kills people. As a pastor, I'm very concerned about family life. And if you're, as a bivocational pastor friend of mine leaves at 3:15 in the morning to get up to his job on Friday, it takes him more than 4 hours to get home. What does that do for he and his wife and his kids? Okay, so I think ACE Train is just really, really positive in terms of family life. The other thing is I grew up milking cows on a dairy between Hillmar and Denair. You see Half Dome? I could see that with the naked eye as a kid. In the late 50s. I had heard of asthma, but I didn't know anyone with asthma, and so just the whole environmental impact, just, you go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Debbie Avila. I'm a board member of the Mujeres Latinas. I grew up in this area my entire life, and it's so amazing to see you guys coming together to do something that's so important for our valley. I'm Spanish speaking, and I just wanted to say thank you and offer my services. One thing I failed to see is I didn't see a lot of people here who maybe didn't speak Spanish, or a lot of the growing population that's growing in this area. In church, I used to interpret where the people who were speaking, somebody was sitting in the audience with a headset, and I would interpret simultaneously into Spanish. I'd love to offer my services and be of any help possible. Thank you for your time, and thank you for coming together for something that is so important to our valley.
Thank you for that offer, and if you would grab one of our if one of our staff members would make sure you get your contact information, we'll take you up on that.
Most definitely. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ron Jones. I'm the president of the Train Riders Association of California, and TRAC is grateful for you group to come here as chairman and members and take the time to listen to the people of this area. TRAC has been an active voice for passenger rail for 3 decades and has over 500 members statewide. We hope we find the ideas that we present today fresh and exciting and get people on the rail, like the people we've been talking about, students, the elderly. I know one thing's for sure. If Ms. Williams and the pastor were out there promoting passenger rail, I think we'd all be riding rail today. And those are the stories I think we all want to hear. We have 4 brief points I want to go over. First of all, we at the Altamont Corridor believe serving by a modern regional rail service is the key. This is what ACE has previously been developing as the Altamont Corridor Rail Project. We think that earlier work was great and want the Altamont Corridor improved consistent with the breadth of its vision. Rather than as one big project, we see the Altamont Corridor can be improved incrementally and to fundable chunks. Each phase will increase speeds and help increase ridership greatly. We think the heavy concentration of jobs in the South Bay makes it appropriate for the San Joaquin to enter the Bay Area through the ACE route. Combining the resources of both systems will enable far more ACE, more improvements. Our approach makes possible many miles of passenger-only track, thereby greatly improving reliability. And finally, we have a proposal for the San Joaquin. We propose converting the 2 Sacramento-Bakersfield round trips to a Bay Area trips. We propose to replace those 2 trips with diesel multi-unit, making shuttle trips between Stockton and Sacramento as ridership demands. With DMUs, the cost of filling in the schedules for both the Bay Area and Sacramento will be comparatively low. We think this is the best way to grow ridership for the short term. We prepared a proposal in detail, which we worked very hard on, and we present to staff. And if there are any questions, our Administrative Director, Mike Setti, and myself are available. Thank you very much for this opportunity. We truly appreciate it.
And thank you to you. I've seen you at multiple rail hearings, and I just wanted to bring up a point. You talk about the diesel multiple units from Sacramento into the Bay Area. Japan and potentially some other countries have come up with technology that allow for train sets that can be used on diesel non-electric lines and electric lines as well, and they switch connectivity so that you can have a single train that just transfers over from a non-electrified line to an electrified line. So in fact, when Prop 1A passed in 2008, that technology wasn't even available yet. So I'm hopeful that that's something that all of rail will be looking at, because I think that we can better take advantage of the Caltrain system that will be electrified in the next few years. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kenneth Ryan. I'm representing the seniors of the North. Since I came down from Mount Shasta for this. It's 300 miles from Sacramento to Oregon. It's a 14-county area, 45,000 square miles, so to speak, very rural, but even in the rural areas we have some pretty decent transit available. Seniors ride transit, seniors ride your Amtrak buses, and we're here because we wish to be supportive and work with the system to improve the bus service. As Dan said in his remarks, 45% of the ridership on these trains, and to some extent a lot of the Capital Corridor, comes from buses. Obviously, most of that is from the south, but we have the potential to bring more people in from the north once we get the coordination together, and possibly even bring people to the ACE service through the bus service. So we stand to be willing to help on this, and we are very glad that you're moving forward, and we hope that the funding will encourage more thinking about the feeder services that may make this system work. Thank you.
Peter Warner. I'm a member of the Southern California Train Travel Meetup Group, which is a subsidiary organization of TrainWeb.com. Couple of things that could improve the San Joaquin route. We need second platforms in Fresno to eliminate the holdout rule situation. The second platform needs to be reinstated in Merced, and here there is room to put a second track and a second platform at this station and try to have all the simultaneous meets where you have double track and double platform. Then you don't have any opposing train delays. Secondly, when they can get a third train to Sacramento from Bakersfield that leaves earlier, the California Zephyr leaves Sacramento at 11:10 a.m. If you could eliminate the need for passengers to transfer to a throughway bus to get from one train to the other by simply shuffling the schedules around so that train 701 leaves Bakersfield first and goes up into Sacramento and connects to the Zephyr, it would make the baggage transferring for checked baggage a lot easier, because sometimes baggage tends to get lost or left behind on throughway buses, and it's been a very big problem down in the Los Angeles area.
Good afternoon. My name is Roland Lebrun. I'm from San Jose. I'm a transit advocate. I come from London. I really wish I could have taken the train this morning instead of having to drive to Gilroy to avoid the smoke in the Livermore area. A couple of points. I'd like to offer you a poor man's BART connection, because I think, to me, the solution lies in Fremont, because the BART station is in one place, AC and Capital Corridor in a different place, and the killer is that the railroad tracks actually go under BART. So it seems to me if we built a multimodal station there, maybe for $100 million, I think we get the job done, and you'd get very close to Silicon Valley. Your best connection to Caltrain is actually Redwood City, believe it or not. And you got to rethink the Dumbarton corridor, actually build a tunnel there. We know how to do this for $500 million, the entire thing. The killer is, as you come out of the tunnel, you're at a station there. That's a Facebook station in Menlo Park. From there, you can bike to Google. I'll take a bus. I'll be very brief. In terms of metrics, I recommend that you use PMT, passenger miles travel. You will be a lot more effective than just looking at ridership, because you're going to find that every single ACE passenger is actually worth 16 baht passengers in terms of funding. And in closing, I would like you to look, review CPUC section 185032, which basically says high-speed rail have got exclusive right to develop and clear whatever, anything above 125 miles an hour. I would like you to make a very clear line in the sand, and that says that anything that is below 125 miles an hour is for people who are actually interested in providing, reasonable passenger rail. Thank you.
Good afternoon. James Vineyard, Atwater City Council. Atwater City Council is fully behind the extension down to Merced, and we're looking forward to possibly being one of your stops. We do have a transit station right there on Atwater Boulevard, perfectly expandable, and is also very close to the new Atwater-Merced Expressway, which leads to Merced College. And we can provide a lot of things to both the people, students coming down from the north, as well as people going in and out from the north and the south. Thank you very much.
My name is Sandra De Alca. I was born in California, raised in the Bay Area, and living here in the Valley for the last 30 years or so. And so I've seen California's lack of public transportation exemplified through what didn't happen with BART when we said go over the Altamont, and they said, oh no, nobody will ever be there, to where we are today. We need to be practical, and so in listening to this whole discussion, I lived in Chicago for a while. I used public transportation every single day. I left my car in California because California, unfortunately, cannot get through its head that we need public transportation. And we've all heard, and we've all said we're in support of it, the money, okay? Because too many of us are tied to our car because of the convenience. So if you make things more convenient, people will use it. ACE demonstrates that. And today, we don't have the ability to build enough roads. So what are you going to do? I've heard all kinds of discussions here today. If you get people to the Bay Area or opposite conveniently, you can do it with the money that you have now in cap and trade. By forgetting this $5 billion connection to BART, it's not going to happen. It's 10 years, all this other stuff. Use rail to get there somehow, to make the connection. Figure it out. I mean, your proposal said if you did everything in the world you wanted to do, how many dollars would you spend? Okay? About $1 billion or something like that. Okay? I've just looked at this stuff today. I'm a business person and a concerned citizen. Okay? I don't study it all the time like you all do. But, I mean, it just seems to me so logical. I mean, if you let the people here connect to the Bay Area, and ACE has connected us to Silicon Valley, you make your trains work in the middle of the day somehow, okay? There's got to be a way to do that, not cost a lot more money. You have your problem solved. So go do it. Stop talking about it. Don't look at proposals that are 10 years down the road and $5 billion, because it's not going to happen in time to help all of us who are stuck on the Altamont because we can't get to San Francisco conveniently. Okay? My daughter, you know, she comes here from Chicago and she says, what the hell, why don't we still have the connection? I take her to BART, but we sit so long from that 10-mile stretch. I mean, are we crazy that we can't figure how to connect 10 miles without spending $5 billion? We're nuts. And that's all I got to say.
I apologize. I was supposed to be following on Senator Galgiani's remarks earlier about the technology called electrodiesel multiple units. They're called EDMUs. They've been used very successfully in France since 2004. You can look at something called the AGC bye-bye, see how that works. But the reason I'm addressing you is that we actually suggested this in the Caltrain electrification EIR, and we were rejected basically because high-speed rail wants to electrify Caltrain regardless of what happens. And we really need help from you, making these people go back and reconsider. We want this option. We're going to need this during electrification to be able to continue running a service, whether the wires are there or not. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your comments. With that, I think we've concluded. Well, we've got one more public comment period.
I just want to pick up on what the other lady. I just want to pick up on what the other.
You go ahead and say your name.
My name is Bruce. I just want to pick up on what the other lady was saying about how inconvenient it is around here to get places, and how everybody sits on 580 or whatever other highway they choose to go on. Keep it simple, and there's another S, but I'm not going to say that. The old KISS method. Sometimes I like to go to a lot of plays with my wife, and we find it easier to jump on an airplane, fly to Chicago, fly to New York, get on a train, go into downtown, and stay there, and then come back here, as opposed to driving into San Francisco, because it's a pain in the rear end. And it would be so convenient. We would love to be able to just take a train and enjoy ourselves. And just to drive 45 minutes from here over to BART is also a pain. Thank you. Keep it simple. Connect.
Thank you for your comments. That will then conclude the public comment period. I'd like to, first of all, thank all the members of the public, local elected officials who took the time to be here today. I think the big takeaway is there's incredible support for moving forward with these projects right here in this community and also in our neighboring communities throughout the state. I'd like specifically to thank Senator Galgiani, Senator Cannella, both members of the Senate Rail Committee, for joining us. They are staunch and important advocates for this work, and there is a lot going on in Sacramento with a special session on transportation discussions, and hopefully in the very near term we'll be able to make some progress on some of these issues working together, and we do work together very well. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank Assemblymember Olson, and I believe we had a representative from Assemblymember Gomez's office as a member as well here today. I'd like to thank all of our speakers for their informative presentations, the stakeholders, agency staff, organizations who were here. It was informative, and it also steered an important discussion about making these incredibly important investments. I think as we wrap up, we should consider what the next steps are, certainly for the Select Committee on Rail. And one of the near-term steps I'd like to propose is engaging with the San Joaquin Valley Caucus, of which everybody here today is a member of that organization. I'm going to propose that we put together a formal resolution in support of the ACE and the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority that we could put before the state legislature. I think that would be an important first step in advancing some of the work we're trying to advance. Secondly, we want to get a letter together by that same group in support of increasing the cap-and-trade transit and intercity rail capital program to 20% of the ongoing cap-and-trade funds, so that we can access those very important resources that we've discussed today to make these investments. I will certainly work with Senator Galgiani and the others throughout the San Joaquin Valley to make sure that we can get that moving, and that can be an important part of these discussions we're having in Sacramento this summer. With that, Thank you all for being here. I'm going to offer Senator Galgiani an opportunity to make some closing remarks, and then we'll wrap up.
Thank you. This has been very, very valuable today, and I think that the most important direction that we are actually taking is the fact that we're looking at how we can take advantage of existing infrastructure and connect that with other infrastructure and build new track in some places so that we can have dedicated lines and take advantage of the infrastructure that's there. One of the things that we didn't touch on that I hope to touch on in the near future is the fact that while we have the $6.3 billion investment of high-speed rail in the Central Valley, when the federal government was partnering with the authority and looking at that, they required that we had independent utility for that segment, and that's why it was to start in Madera rather than a place like Merced or Modesto that we thought made much more sense. The good thing in hindsight about that is the fact that that 150-mile infrastructure will be able to connect into the San Joaquin lines. And the belief that at that time was that if we didn't have more money in future years because of the economic downturn at that time, that investment would still be utilized because we would be able to connect it with the San Joaquins. I think it's worth looking at, how do we take that investment once it's done and connect it into the line. And I'm very, very pleased to hear today that the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority is looking at the dedicated line from Stockton up to Sacramento. So we could, in the very near future, foresee utilizing that infrastructure from Bakersfield all the way to Sacramento, just as we look at Bakersfield to the San Jose and San Francisco via ACE and Caltrain. And thank you, Assemblymember Gray, for your leadership on this and for bringing everyone together. And you had a very, very thoughtful group today, and I think it was of tremendous value.
Thank you. And with that, the Select Committee on Rails adjourned. Thank you.